Hello, my name is James Watling and welcome to PEEP Live, episode 4 on the 17th of November. Coming to you live from the centre of Newcastle, wonderful city of Newcastle. This is our fourth, as you can tell by being episode 4, our fourth studio production. We're very happy to have our viewers back with us. Hopefully we've gained some new viewers, new subscriptions in the meantime. We've got an action-packed, fantastic show for you tonight, filled with a special guest, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing. And also, obviously, you can also field questions yourself live on the stream. As I said before, my name's James Watling. I am part of Team Alpha, which is a training system and an ethos involving mixed martial arts, strength and conditioning, nutrition, supplementation. And you can find me on Instagram at Team Alpha 1424, on Twitter at WatlingHot, and you can also follow my Facebook page on Team Alpha. You can subscribe to us at PEEP Magazine, at PEEP Magazine on Twitter, at PEEP Productions on Instagram for your up-to-date combat news. Here at PEEP, we cover all types of combat sports such as mixed martial arts, professional boxing, kickboxing, K1, and more. And as I said before, we have an absolutely packed show for you tonight. Slight change you will notice after the complaints. We had a number of comments about the blue shirt that I wore on the last show. That didn't go down too well. So you'll see I'm back to my traditional PEEP black. So you no longer need to put any more hate mail out to us here because Cliff was finding it hard to get through all the posts. Right. On to our boxing news. I would just better give you the show rundown, actually. That would be nice. So today we have combat news where we're going to be focusing mainly on professional boxing. And we've also got some fantastic kickboxing and K1 shows on locally, which we're going to tell you a little bit more about if you'd like to go and watch a show live. We also have a competition for you. If you remember last week or last episode, we had a competition winner. Mr. Freddie Ibbotson won the PEEP Special Edition t-shirt. He answered the question about which iconic photograph was this image kind of parodying, so to speak. He won for himself the t-shirt, and he also won an APN protein powder, which we are sending out to you. Not this one, because it's here, but it's in the post. The check's in the post. It'll be on its way. In fact, the irony was that without it, this wasn't. We had Stevie Ibbotson, a good friend of mine and a high-level professional fighter, on last week. It's actually his dad who entered, and he did enter it and win it fair and square. There was no kind of. We actually didn't know it was Stevie's dad until he came into the studio. So Stevie, stand on me for this one. The protein is on its way. The t-shirt is on its way. We're going to get those out to you, no problem whatsoever. But we have a new competition for you tonight, which is quite interesting. So we have that for you. We have a special guest. We have a fantastic special guest for you tonight. We've been talking about him over the last few episodes, and he's actually here with us live tonight in the studio. And we'll be bringing him on imminently to discuss some of his views on training, on mixed martial arts, on psychology, and anything else he'd like to discuss. PEEP XS, you'll remember that PEEP Mix has been changed officially to PEEP XS. We may even have a new icon for you for the PEEP XS, a new graphic rather we can bring up. A new graphic. I said icon, but we've changed that quickly to graphic. It is graphic, that's how it should be. Thank you for correcting me, Cliff. So we have a new graphic for that, which I'm looking forward to seeing myself. Hopefully I'll be able to catch that. PEEP XS tonight, we're going to have we're staying on film. We're having a little bit of a movie recommendation for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the superhero genre of film and what attracts us so much towards that with the not, I wouldn't say the growing, but the current massive popularity of superhero films. You Marvel, your DC, Fox. They have the X-Men films that they bring in that they release. And they're just massively popular. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. They're so popular that they've earned over, I think, in excess actually of $20 billion from what my studies show. And that's a heck of a lot of money. And there's been almost 50 shows that have been released, including the Netflix series. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and why that appeals to us so much, particularly to fighters, perhaps. And we're going to bring our special guest on to talk about that as well. And Cliff, can I just confirm that a certain Mr. Scott would be Has he been in touch over the last week? For those viewers who don't know, Ridley Scott, the director Ridley Scott, is actually a fan of PEEP magazine. Cliff knows him personally from his time at film school. He's commented a few times on past shows.
He's just getting off a plane at the moment. He's
right.
arrived in New York, but
right.
He says if he gets a time,
would he? Do you think we could maybe get him to phone in sometime and get him to phone in live at some point on a future show? We'll see what happens on that one, but he is a fan of the show. So on that note, I'm gonna shout out for those who haven't seen it. It's gone now, but there's a Blade Runner. If you haven't seen Blade Runner or the new Blade Runner 2049, we do recommend. Because we just very very elegantly zoom into the Blade Runner there. If you haven't seen it, that's a cult classic. I hope you didn't hear my burp there. I've got a bit of a cold as well, so I'll try not to sneeze too much tonight. A cult classic, Blade Runner. We thoroughly recommend it. Myself and Cliff are big fans of Ridley Scott's work. Gladiator, another classic. I could do a run in that. Alien, another classic. Ridley Scott. So he's. Just rattle them off. Black Hawk Down. Yeah. See, that's sometimes. I like Black Hawk Down. I think we're fans. Are you a fan of Black Hawk Down, Cliff?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. All his work,
It's
was Gladiator. Yeah.
Ridley Scott. Yeah, classic. It's reciprocation. Where we like his stuff, he likes ours, and it's all good. So we'll see I'm hoping to get him on the show at some point, but he's got a busy schedule. Let's get on to combat news. Okay, so the combat news. I'm quite excited. I'm very excited about combat news this week because we're going to be discussing professional boxing, the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division at the moment, it's kind of like almost like a renaissance for me with the heavyweights. The heavyweights is, I would say, a most maligned division. Each generation sets its boxing by its heavyweights, or at least that's kind of how it's always been. So when you have a strong heavyweight champion and a strong heavyweight division, boxing seems to flourish. And then when you get a weak division or a weak champion, it seems to have a bit of a decline. Now, at the moment, perhaps, I think now, just quickly on that, you say Mike Tyson to pretty much the man on the street, and most people are going to know who Mike Tyson was. You say Lennox Lewis. I know Lennox Lewis, and I think he's one of the greatest heavyweight champions. Probably not so much. Now, if you went on the street, and I'm a big fan of the Klitschko's, and you said, do you know who Vladimir Klitschko, do you know who Vitaly Klitschko is? Again, you might not get a great reaction from the man on the street, not just from the boxing fan. But now if you were to say, do you know who Anthony Joshua is to the man on the street, you probably get a good response from that. Because not just because he was an Olympic champion, but because he's promoted in the right way. He speaks well. He's a good-looking guy. And he's winning fights. And the way he's promoted is I think so the general public can really take to him and back him. And we've got a genuine British heavyweight in Anthony Joshua, and I do like Anthony Joshua. Tony Wilder, who's the current WBC heavyweight champion, an American champion. Deontay. What did I say? Tony. Dentonine is the way it's spelled on here. So that I respelled that. That wasn't you. That was me. That was Apple's fault. So we'd like to just call Apple out there for misspelling Tony Wilder's name and making me and Cliff look bad. But we'll let that one go because we're using a lot of Apple stuff in the studio. Tony Wilder. Back in the day, the heavyweights. Throughout history, pretty much the American heavyweights have been the.
Deontay.
Have I said Tony again?
Yeah.
It's not Apple, it's me. Deontay, I apologize. Throughout history, the American heavyweights have been recognized as the best, and British heavyweights were much maligned. Lennox Lewis, who was born in London but then emigrated to Canada, was a Canadian citizen, but then obviously we took him on as a British champ. But and Frank Bruno, we've had some very good champions. But Anthony Joshua, people have really really latched onto him. Back to Tony. Deontay, the man from Deontay says yes. The man from Deontay says yes. Deontay Wilder, a genuine WBC heavyweight champion, American champion, who I'm also a big fan of. We're going to talk about him. And Tyson Fury, another British heavyweight champ who looks to return in 2018. We're going to reflect paradoxically, only a small amount on Tony Bellew and David Haye. They're fighting very soon. I was saying to Clifton before, I didn't even realize that the fight was coming up soon. I thought that was for the new year, but that's actually on December the 17th. So we'll talk a little bit about Tony Bellew, David Haye, and a bit of a discussion I had in the car with Cliff about it's almost as if David Haye and Tony Bellew are kind of having their own little roadshow as the other guys move on with their thing. So let's talk a little bit about them. So, Anthony Joshua, I watched his recent fight, which was against, a Frenchman. What was his name? Carlos Takam, I think his name was. Talis Takam or Takim. I think he stopped him. Was it the 10th round? I think he took him out. I haven't managed to watch the whole fight because I didn't watch it live. I was just doing the old YouTube thing. So I can't really comment too much on the fight. I know there was a headbutt at some point, and Anthony Joshua had a suspected broken nose. And I also recognize that the stoppage was quite controversial. From what I understand, as I say, I haven't seen the whole fight, so please, contact us, messages, and we'll discuss it. That Anthony Joshua was ahead in this fight. It was a replacement as well, bringing Takam in. I did actually see the stoppage, but not the whole fight before then, and it did seem as if there was a lull in the fight. Takam wasn't really connecting, and he seemed to step in at the wrong time as it was kind of a lull, and it looked as if Takam was going to be coming back and attacking Joshua, and it seemed to just be stopped prematurely. What's going on now? Those who were there live watching, from what I understand and from what I could see on the interviews, some people were saying yes, it was a fair stoppage. Some people were saying it was stopped too soon. However, the records show that Anthony Joshua defended his IBF and WBA heavyweight titles successfully, and the Takam camp, Carlos Takam camp, have not put in an official complaint. So that's it on record now. Anthony Joshua retains his heavyweight titles. So what's Anthony Joshua's next move? Now, I'm a fan of Anthony Joshua. I hadn't followed him through the Olympics, and I had watched some of his earlier fights. However, in all honesty, I just felt that until he'd fought somebody of a strong caliber, is he really the fighter he's going to be? Because he's big, he's powerful, and everybody jumps on the bandwagon and think, oh yeah, he's doing. And then how's he going to get on with that? But all those questions, those questions were answered concisely when he fought Klitschko and he beat Klitschko. Those questions were answered. Anthony Joshua is a legitimate heavyweight champion. I'm a big fan of Anthony Joshua's because he just seems like a genuine guy. He seems like a good guy. He's very humble. He's confident, but he's humble. He's respectful, and he's a true cliche gentleman of the sport. And what a fantastic role model he is especially for girls and boys, but for young men out there who are trying to find their way in the world. And you've got somebody like Anthony Joshua, not just a world champion, but talking about what it took him to get there, being honest about his past. He doesn't lie, he speaks his truth, and I've got a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I think he is the genuine article without a doubt. What route is he going to go? That brings us back onto Tony.
He's doing it on purpose.
No, Deontay Wilder. That brings us on to Deontay Wilder. I'm also a massive Deontay Wilder fan. I think Deontay Wilder is fantastic. Now, I think Joshua is about the 6'6" mark. I'm sure you can Google this and correct me. And he's weighing in what? Is he about 240, 250? Is he that heavy, Anthony Joshua? He's certainly 6'6". I'm going to say 240 pounds at 6'6". Maybe even heavy. And he's an absolute unit, as Nigel Benn would say. He's muscular, he's strong, and he doesn't look as tall as he actually is because he's such a big dude and he's so well proportioned. But he's certainly a big, muscular, powerful fighter.
113 kilograms, is that right?
113 kilograms. I'm not sure what that would be in pounds. It's times 2.25, so that'd be 226. So he's around about 235. Is about 235
in puns.
in punds.
249 pounds.
249. Well, I said, I was right, 250 pounds. Now, my point is, Deontay Wilder is 6'7", I believe, and he weighs around about the 220 pound mark. So he's very, very lean for a heavyweight. I mean, if you look at his legs, he's got very slim legs and a quite muscular upper body. However, he generates a tremendous amount of power. He has a 100% knockout ratio. A lot of questions against Deontay Wilder was, can he take a punch? Has he got stamina, and can he box? Because he's knocking guys out. Now, when he won his WBC title, he went against Stavern. What's his first? Bermain Stavern. Yeah. And Stavern was a legitimate heavyweight champ. He was a legitimate heavyweight champ. And he went against Stavern. He beat him over 12 rounds on points. He achieved a knockdown, and Stavern kind of went almost for like a double leg takedown as he knocked him down. He proved he could take a punch. Wilder proved he could take a punch. He proved he could box, and he proved he had the gas. So to me, by winning WBC belt, that showed that he was a legitimate heavyweight. He rematched Stavern, which was Deontay's most recent fight, unless he's had a street fight since then or whatever. But that was his most recent professional fight. Now, when I looked at Stavern's body, he seemed a little bit flabby, seemed a bit overweight. Did he really want to be there? I don't know. But that all to one side, Wilder came out and just destroyed him. He took him out in the first round. I think he knocked him down, was it twice? There was one specific knockdown. And then when he knocked him down the second time, Stavern had his gloves up. The guy carries so much power. Now, some people were saying about him throwing these wide arcing shots, which he does. And the question against if Joshua was to fight Wilder, could Joshua come with his short shots on the inside? But for me, Wilder's only thrown those big shots when he can get away with it, and he's such a big, tall guy. So that's the question. England versus USA. We're talking about a Joshua versus Wilder fight. It's been discussed. I've listened to some of the interviews that Joshua's given. He says that he's up for it. Wilder in his press conference after his fight against Stavern very specifically said, let's get this on. I'm ready to get this going. Both fighters seem to want it. The question would be, I suppose, purse parity. How would the purses even out? Who would get paid what? What percentage would it be? So whether it's 10 million, 20 million, let's look at the percentages. For me personally, do I think it should be a 50-50 split? That's a good question. Here's the first thing. Not that long ago, 5-10 years ago, 10 years maximum, even 5 years ago, if you wanted to make money in boxing, like big money, you go to America. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay? Nowadays, with the heavyweights, and I think with the other divisions as well, if you want to make money, you come to England. Am I wrong? You know? Eddie Hearn's one of the main promoters, one of the top promoters in the world. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather, the highest paid athlete in boxing, he never came to the UK to fight. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of money in the UK. You go to Wembley, you're selling out, is it 80, 90,000 at Wembley? You've got all your pay-per-view. So the argument could be, if you want to make money, you've got to come into Joshua's backyard over to England and fight here because you're going to sell more tickets. Pay-per-view notwithstanding, because obviously it doesn't really matter where you are for pay-per-view, but you'll sell more tickets, generate more revenue. So should Wilder come over to here? Question.
Lee Robson.
Yo.
I know quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua needs one fight in America before he tackles Tony Wilder, purely for marketing purposes. Even the American public aren't that familiar with Wilder, and that's his home. Lee Robson, shout out to Lee Robson. Thank you for messaging. Really, I agree with you there. I think this is kind of following on to my point I was making there, that Wilder isn't really that well known in the US. Therefore, he would make more money coming to the UK. Do the UK do you know what? It might even be equal. The amount of pound for pound. Obviously, there's more people in America than there is in the UK. But Wilder's probably just as well known in the UK as he is in the US, numbers notwithstanding. So that's why it would seem to make more sense for Wilder to come to the UK. He's going to make more money, okay? So the question then, therefore, would be, should then Joshua get a higher percentage of the purse because he's Eddie Hearn's fighter, is a UK fighter? And I personally don't. I think it should be a purse split. You could argue, okay, Joshua's a bigger draw. I've just said that. He's a bigger name. But Wilder's a genuine champion bringing in a WBC belt. If it wasn't a 50-50 split, it should certainly be a 60-40 in perhaps Joshua's favour. But I would completely understand why Wilder would want a 50-50 split. Can you just read that question again, just so I've addressed that completely? Thank you, Cliff. I should also mention Cliff is the CEO of PEEP magazine. He runs the show. So shout out to Cliff. Joshua needs one fight in America before he tackles Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, I could.
For marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Even the American public aren't that familiar with Wilder.
Yeah.
And that's his home.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, if Joshua was to go to the States, to take a fight over in the States, would that really build his profile? Would he need to build his profile over in the States? Because if you think about it in this sense,
if you're building a profile, it's really bums on seats. It's not necessarily pay-per-view, because you don't necessarily, to build your name on pay-per-view, need to go to the country to fight, and you just need to be promoted very well. So it's an interesting point. Wilder, no? Yes, Wilder. No, Lee Robson, thank you for your input there, because it's very relevant, very, very relevant. Thank you. Thank you for that. So it's an interesting, who knows? He could be very much right if Joshua took a fight in the States and build it up, but I think it's more beneficial for them both to fight in the UK. Now, what I was about to say is Wilder, I believe, is signed to fight Dylan White. Do you see how I rhymed that there? You see that?
But the thing is, what's the carrot in there for Wilder?
Well, for Wilder to fight Dylan White, here's my take on that. The reason for that is to perhaps bring Wilder over to the UK to fight a UK fighter of repute. Because people will know Dylan White, I would imagine, from being an Anthony Joshua former opponent. So basically reverse engineering what Lee Robson had said is that rather than Joshua going over to the US, bring Wilder to the UK, let Wilder fight in the UK, generate a bit more interest there, and then once Wilder, assuming he beats Dylan White, then have Wilder against Joshua in the UK. So that's another possibility. I'm going to bring out a special guest pretty soon, so I want to get his thoughts on it. Because we're gonna go back to that, USA or UK. I just want to talk about Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is looking to come back. I've watched two recent feeds or streams or YouTube posts and Instagram on Tyson Fury. One was him talking about that he's wanting to come back. He's talking about coming back, I believe, from what he said, March, April time. I think this was at IFL London. He's talking about coming back March, April. This year would be too soon for him. He says that he's 6 stone overweight at the moment. Now, from what I remember, Tyson Fury is 6'9", he's 18 stone, and he says he's 6 stone over his fighting weight. So, assuming he's around about 24, 25 stone at 6'9", now 25 stone is going to be around about over nearly 300 pounds, or about 290. So he needs to lose that weight. The second video I saw, and you should check this out for yourself, viewers, was footage of Tyson Fury on the pads. I don't know if you saw that. He's hitting the focus mitts and working the sticks. So fluid, so quick, Of the three of them, I would say Wilder's the most powerful, followed by Joshua. However, I believe Fury's the better boxer. Now, I'm a fan of Tyson Fury, and I always have been ever since I first, my first viewing of him. I think it was maybe his 20th professional fight or his 18th professional fight. I don't know how many. He hasn't had many in total, has he? Has he had mid-20s, I think. However, I've always been a fan of Tyson Fury. I like his height, I like his look, I like his boxing style. He's caused controversy about what he's spoken about, but each man is entitled to, to speak his own truth. And I've always been a fan. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's underestimated, I think, and underappreciated, in my opinion. He went over and he went to Germany, did he not, when he fought Klitschko? Yeah, he went when he fought Vladimir Klitschko, and he beat Vladimir Klitschko. He indecisively outboxed him, and I don't think he got enough credit for that. I think Tyson Fury is a fantastic heavyweight, and again, I'm a big fan. So what would Tyson Fury's? I'd be interested to know what your thoughts on what Tyson Fury's next step should be. If he's coming back next year, we're talking a little bit about this, and I was thinking, well, who should he come against? I mean, I'd rather see him fight somebody first before he came against Wilder or Joshua, not necessarily for a warm up, but just kind of reestablish, his kind of. Just to let everybody know he's back, basically. So who could he fight? And I thought, he doesn't really need to go against a European. I thought perhaps a former world champion, like an American fighter who's on his way down, not a journeyman, but somebody who's been a champ and maybe not at the top. And then our special guest actually came up with a fantastic idea, which I'm not going to say anything about, and let him tell you about that, which would be, I think, a fantastic return for Tyson Fury. So Joshua Wilder Fury are the main topic of tonight on Combat News. Before I finish this Combat News and move on to our local shows, Bellew versus David Haye. Going to say a quick bit on that. I didn't know it was happening, but it is. It's at heavyweight. It's a rematch. I won money on the fight because my cousin, Scott Watling, shout out to you, he put money on me for Bellew to win, and he handed me, we watched the fight live at his, and he goes, oh, there's 30 quid. I was like, what's that? He goes, I put some money on for you. I was like, oh, cool. So I got 30 quid out of it. I thought David Haye was going to win that fight. I think David Haye's a great fighter. I've never met him personally, but from what I've heard and read, it's been an up and down like relationship with David Haye for me personally. But he's a good fighter. Bellew proved his mettle as far as I'm concerned in that fight. You know, he beat David Haye fair and square. David Haye tore up his Achilles tendon. And to say that he's rested and you know he's allowed that to heal and surgery and come back, and he's had surgery on his shoulder, you've got to give the man credit for coming back. So my prediction of the Bellew David Haye fight, pain. It's going to be interesting. I'm probably going to pick Bellew to win that one. No, in fact, you know what? I'm going to go David Haye. I think David Haye may come back and reestablish himself with that fight, but if Bellew wins, I wouldn't be at all surprised. So that's going to be an interesting fight coming up. Now, question.
Lee Robson again.
Lee Robson, good to hear from you.
Also with the lads. Good stuff. Keep it up. Cheers, Lee.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Mate, we appreciate it.
Thank you for watching as well. Thank you for watching, sincerely. Stay tuned.
We're looking for journalists.
We are indeed. That's my next. We are looking for journalists at PEEP as we grow and expand. As we grow and expand, we are looking for journalists, photojournalists to join us on Team PEEP. If you have a history of photography, of filming, of sound wizardry, then if you'd like to contact Cliff directly through PEEP, either through Twitter or you can Facebook messages. Contact at PEEP Magazine. We are looking for people to join the team on a technical perspective. So if you have a history in that area, I don't believe we're looking for university graduates, but if you have graduated with top honors and you feel you have the goods, then you are very welcome to contact us and show us some of your work, and we'd love to have a look at that. But we are expanding and growing as we speak. As we speak, we're getting bigger, so we do need more people on board. Clearly not for the hosting though. I think we've got that covered.
Oh, we've got that covered.
Unless you're Rose Bryan and you're tired of acting and you want to come and join me on the table, you're more than welcome.
Unless Ridley Scott wants to make an appearance, and then James, you're going to have to maybe take this.
Well, I don't. You know, I'll be happy to have him with me. And if he needs an extra. Or a co-star. Well, not his co-star, one of his films. Right, let's move on to... if he needs a producer, he could have you for the next... What do you think he's going to... What's he doing next? Anyway, what's his next film? Did he tell you?
Is he working on...
He's got a few irons in the fire, hasn't he?
He did actually tell us we had a coffee and he was talking about something, but I was on my phone at the time.
You got
something about PEEP, you know.
There's PEEP stuff going on, man. You got to prioritize. Do you know what I mean? Can I just give a promotion to Barter Books again? If you haven't been to Barter Books in Alnwick, get yourself over to Barter Books. Cliff, have you been to Barter Books?
Yes.
Thank you. Right.
Yes, I have been.
If you haven't been to Barter Books, it's a beautiful converted. How's my sound? A converted railway station. It's got all types of books in there. You know. You don't need to go to university if you're going to go. But if you want to learn something, go read a book, man. It's all there for you. You can go on YouTube and you can study to degree level now. You can go get books and you can go on YouTube. But you know what? Go get a graphic novel. Go get a comic book. Read something. I really recommend here at PEEP that you go out and read. So Barter Books is a converted railway station filled with secondhand books, fiction, factual biographies, everything you could name. It's got some of the best coffee in the area for 30 pence for a coffee and some of the best cookies you will ever taste. Our special guest, ginger or chocolate? Chocolate. Do you know what it is? Can I just say before we get this question? When you buy a ginger cookie from Barter Books, you always wish you got the chocolate. Question.
Ridley Scott's on the line.
Right. What's your question?
He's just saying he can't believe that we don't know about his next movie. It's actually All the Money in the World. He was actually telling us
Is that what? All the money in the world, right? So it's a bit of a change from the Alien. Kind of ongoing moving sequence. What do we know about the film?
Initial release 22nd of December. He's saying
22nd of December this year.
He's on the phone now, yeah.
Right, 22nd of December.
He said he's got a cast of
Mark Wahlberg, Charlie Plummer, Michelle Williams, Romain Duris, Timothy Hutton, and Charlie Shotwell. So the film is called
All the Money in the World.
All the Money in the World. That's released on the 22nd of December this year, 2017.
That's an exclusive from Ridley.
And that's an exclusive from PEEP. PEEP magazine exclusive. Once again, if you have film experience, video experience, sound editing experience, if you're experienced, or if you've just recently studied for your degree and you've got high quality work to show, then please come along. We'd love to see what you have to offer, and we'd be interested in having a chat with you. So, local shows. Contender Promotions. Mr. Gary Bell has a show tomorrow night, which is on the 18th of November at the MEC Middlesbrough Event Centre. It's a professional K1 show. Headlining on that show, we have a WKL World Title. Taggart versus, excuse me as I butcher this name, Kazag?
I think he's Leaf Taggart.
Leaf Taggart versus, I have his second name, Kazag. I'm not sure of the weights for that. Question. I'll just finish this card and I'll come. Also on the card, we have Michael Parkin versus Marino Constastianos, Kyle Todd versus Marique Pelvis, and John Keynes versus Ratza Hader. And that's on the Contender Promotions event, which is tomorrow night, MEC Middlesbrough Centre, Professional K1. I believe the fights will start at 7 o'clock, but if you are interested in the show, and you can purchase your tickets on the door or contact Gary Bell through Contender Promotions. Just lastly, before we go to this question, we also have on the 17th of December at the NE6 Suite, we have DUEL FIGHTS, David Wheels Duel. We had David on the show the week before last, or rather the show before last. Fantastic gentleman to have on. David, have you finished Dark Trade yet, or have you read it? And I'd just like to know what your thoughts are on that. The show is called Escape from Walker. Tickets are available now. Headlining the show, we have Lucas Parabiak, the heavyweight champ. Lucas is a very experienced fighter and heavyweight. I believe he won the IKF heavyweight, was it the heavyweight K1 title on short notice?
When he went to Wembley.
Yeah, fantastic. Great Polish chap. Thomas versus Thomas Denham. Also featuring, we have Christian Jopling, Rob Barry, Joe Johnson, and a trilogy fight with Andrew Davidson. And the poster will be coming on screen as we speak. So that is the DUEL FIGHTS. David Wheel presents Escape from Walker, the 17th of December at the NE6 Suite. My name is James Watling. I am part of Team Alpha, the head coach and creator of Team Alpha. You can find me on Instagram, 1424. We may have a graphic coming up soon of a giant wolf pointing his finger at you. Team Alpha 1424. You can find me on Twitter at WatlingHot and on Team Alpha Facebook page. PEEP Magazine. If you'd like to follow us at PEEP, you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, at PEEP Magazine on Twitter, at PEEP Productions on Instagram, and hopefully you are following us, subscribing now on YouTube. If you are, make sure you hit that notification buzzer and you will get all the latest notifications. Right then, I'm just going to take a bit of a breath, actually. We have a tradition here at PEEP. Before we start the show, we have this is a question for Cliff. Before we start the show, we always have a polo mint. And when we finish the show, we always have a
drink of lager.
A beer. Yeah, we don't advocate drinking here, but we do occasionally have a drink. We have the polos. A show polo is a special type of polo. Not just any polo. You can't buy these in the shop over the counter. These are show polos. You have to get these specially. Right then. We're going to move on to our special guest. Can I just say, if you'd like to sponsor the show and show your support, show your support. This is an opportunity to get involved with us. Many perks to be had if you come on board as a supporter or Patreon of PEEP Magazine. Not only will you receive up-to-date news before anybody else does, you'll be given the opportunity to come with us on specific interviews with fighters. You'll get to see the studio, perhaps even bring you onto the show, and you'll obviously receive your exclusive PEEP Magazine T-shirt. Lots of benefits for those patrons. Again, Twitter, PEEP Magazine, YouTube, peepmagazine.co.uk. Instagram at PEEP Productions, or you can email us directly on contact@peepmagazine.co.uk. Right. Question, sorry. The poster. Yes, we're gonna do that on the competition just as we bring our men in. We have a special guest for you, ladies and gentlemen. Our special guest is 36 years of age. He comes to us from Ayr in Bonnie, Scotland, all the way down from. He's actually travelled down specially to be here with us tonight. He is a martial artist, a blue belt in power kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He is a former semi-professional ice hockey player and a former semi-professional street hockey player in which he competed as part of the British team. He's a former model, and he now hosts the dramatically growing iTunes podcast, The Chris Reid Show. And his day job is as a psychiatric liaison nurse. One of the most kindest, compassionate, knowledgeable, intelligent people I've ever met. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Reid. Woo! How you doing, buddy? Just to let you know, each show we have a joke chair where we kind of like rig an explosive, and when a guest sits on it, it's so you. I think you've picked the right chair.
I was terrified there. I was just going to fall completely backwards in front of everybody, but we're here.
Well, we're here to go.
I feel like you oversold me there, but it's all true.
It is all true. You know, it's funny you say that. You know, I was talking about you have your Chris Reid show, which we're going to talk about tonight, and I said to you how it reminds me of a show I used to watch on YouTube called Q, which is a Canadian like radio. I'm saying it's a radio talk show, but it's filmed and streamed as well, mm-hmm. And just that it has that kind of feel about it, but. Funny enough, on that, as guests are brought on, and obviously they're given their kind of introduction. For example, they had John Mayer on, they've had John St. Pierre on, mm-hmm. They've had a number of top actors and film stars and business people on. And as they're reading off their kind of not epitaph, because that's when you die, but as they're reading off other things they've done, as they come on, they say, "Wow, is that really me?" And it's and you know because as human beings, it's very often, most of the time, we don't realize all the things that we've achieved, and when you hear it in such a format, you sometimes think, well, is that all me? And it is.
Yeah. You know? I've said many times before, ultimately the end of everything, all you're going to have is a bunch of experiences.
Yeah.
And so when you are 80 years old, being in a nursing home, all you're going to have is these experiences, but it's good to actually reflect on them. Yeah. Probably monthly as well, just to see where you've been mm-hmm. and actually where you could be going. And so recently I actually dug out some of my old ice hockey strips from the attic, and I had like my old Scotland strip. I've got my mm-hmm. GB strip. I think I gave you a pair of my shorts.
Yeah, I have those shorts. I'm still rocking those. I get a lot of positive compliments about those shorts. I'm genuine as well. People go, "I like your shorts. I like the shorts."
Number 19.
Yeah, 19. Man, that's awesome. Yeah. It's interesting what you say there, because I think I said to you before, I'm studying a lot of Jordan Peterson. Shout out to Jordan Peterson, who's for me one of the world's greatest clinical psychologists. He's a lecturer at Harvard, Yale. He's based in one of the Canadian universities, and he talks about how, and you'll know this as a, obviously, is your degree in psychology?
Psychiatry.
Sorry.
Psychiatric nursing, mental health nursing.
Yeah, but he talks about how it's inert within us as human beings and it's in a sense it's a cliche, but we have this fundamental need to keep achieving and moving forward. But it's not, it's the cliches. It's not the destination, the prize at the end, but it's getting towards it, and it's the journey that makes us. I don't want to just say who we are, but give us the feelings of joy and of achievement, of contentment and of happiness, but not getting something. So say, for example, and one of the things he points to is, say you're at university and, you're striving towards getting your degree, and you think when you get that degree, everything's going to be great, and you get the degree and it's like everything's great, but then within a week, it's like everything's back to normal. Like, okay, what's the next thing?
That's it.
And when I've worked with some chaps over at... doing some attribute development with those chaps, I say to them that it's what the way I talk about it is like your emotional, what I just call your emotional set point, where childhood gives you this emotional set point, and it could be 0 is depressed and anger and hate, etc. 10 is joy and happiness and all this type of thing. But that through childhood your emotional set point kind of gets set, but you can raise it with work and effort, but temporarily raising it through, for example, drugs or alcohol or material possession, that's just a temporary raise, but it's going to go back to its original point.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time with people, when they are using drugs or alcohol, they're actually masking their emotions.
Yeah.
And when that's actually taken away, those emotions are actually still going to be there. And you're going to have to address them in some way. But if you do use drugs and alcohol for an extended period of time, and then you do take away those drugs or alcohol, it's going to be even harder to deal with, if you get me.
Yeah, it's compounding the emotions
yeah.
underneath. So do you think to then because an interesting thing you said to me once was about, and then obviously we'll talk about some of the specific questions I have,
sure.
You know, that you as a human being, you shouldn't, if you're walking around all joyful and happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then you're probably clinically insane. That's not a natural state.
I wouldn't say it's a natural state. I think like people can be very reflective in the way they think, but everyone has their wobbles, they have their ups and downs. But you have to naturally have tough times, don't you?
Yeah.
As we all do.
Yeah.
But if you're having a tough time and you're just skipping your way through it happily, then that's just a completely unnatural reaction.
Yeah.
It's about trying to have like an equilibrium between the flow of it all. Happy, sad, bereaving, etc. You know. So
would you feel that then to raise your emotional state, it's kind of a way of, I don't want to not so much a cliche, but that it does take work and effort, that you need to strive towards something. You've got to have some kind of goal, whatever it is, and strive towards it. And you've got to kind of face those fears, not shy away, because you're not going to progress.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. One of the things I would say is reflection. You have to look at yourself, and that was what we spoke about straight away. Yeah, looking at where you've been, what's got you to that position, why you're feeling that way, and reflect on it in a rational manner. Try not to catastrophize about the situation that you're in. And if you're looking at it rationally, you're able to solve the problem, draw a line under what maybe the issue is, and move on from it.
So you've got to confront, not run. And that's the hardest thing to do sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you face something significantly traumatic in your life and you are trying to confront it head on, it can sometimes be very overwhelming for people to deal with.
Of course.
But obviously seek professional help if that is the case. But just your kind of run-of-the-mill, day-to-day drama, then yeah, absolutely reflect on it, deal with it, draw a line under it and move on. And that's why I think sometimes people, like, there's that knock-on effect, isn't there? If you road rage on the way to work and you let it carry on through your whole day, it's going to affect everybody around about you. Yeah. It's going to affect your family when you get home. Yeah. But ultimately, it's you that's you're harming yourself. Yeah. Yeah. If you get me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's like, it's not just a case of snapping out of it, but if we keep reflecting all the bad, then we're just going to attract and create more of it, aren't we, fundamentally?
And you can learn. I mean, I think it's all to do with behavior, isn't it? Yeah. And if you learn how to control that behavior and control those emotions and learn how to deal with them, it's something you can carry on for the future. So if something bad does happen again, that's almost as significant as the last time, you'll be able to address it in a more appropriate way the next time.
It's interesting. I mean, from a meditative aspect, it's that sometimes as well, though, it's not fighting against the way that you feel, but allowing those feelings to kind of manifest, but not attaching yourself to those feelings and letting them control you.
Yeah, I think that's where there's this. We're going deep.
We are. We're going like deep. We're already going deep. We've got a special. We've got a special guest on, Mr. Chris Reid. Wow. He's a martial artist. He's a professional ice hockey player, former model. He's a psychiatric liaison nurse.
I'm still modelling. Check out Christine Sadler's website, Christine Sadler Jewelry. I'm modelling on there with my big broken nose right now. Yeah.
Rep that again for me.
Yeah, check out Christine Sadler Jewelry.
Yeah.
Just Google that. Absolutely amazing. The work she does is phenomenal. Yeah. And she had asked me to do a photo shoot.
Was that the wedding kind of?
Yeah, that was the wedding shoot.
Culzean Castle.
Yeah, Culzean Castle. Yes. Yeah, in Scotland. So that's like the shoot. I'd retired from the modelling thing because I got a bit older. But anyway, ended up doing a photo shoot, and I think it's been used for Visit Scotland, for Christine Sadler jewelry, for cakes.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's fantastic. Check that out. I mean, the shots are really professionally done.
I didn't choose the model life. The model life chose me.
That's exactly it. Well, you don't choose. It chooses you. I've got a few questions. I mean, a few things, but this the way we work, the way I work. I mean, my past teachers will know this. I don't do a lot of prep or study because it's all in here. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research, but I just like to let things organically grow rather than just reading off a board. However, I do have some interesting questions, and the first one is interesting to me. What started you on the road to athletic pursuits?
Okay, so I grew up in Australia. So we moved to Australia when I was 9 months old, and out there it's just constantly running about the place playing sport. So I played cricket, Aussie rules football. I did PE or physical education in the sea because it was just too warm. Every child in the area had to learn how to swim at the Olympic Swimming Academy.
Wow.
In that respect, for a few different reasons, well, for a couple of different reasons. Reason one, everybody had a swimming pool, so it would make sense that everybody knew how to swim so they could save their own life. And number two, they could pluck out any potential athletes, any potential Olympians, so they could get them from such a young age and just pluck them out of the water literally and put them in the athletes pool. And so I had this, the thing that underpinned me was just athleticism straight away. And then when I moved over to Scotland, I think I was about 12 at the time, everyone was indoors. Everyone was playing with like action figures.
With the fried Mars bars and the...
Yeah, it was so weird.
Watching reruns of Braveheart with...
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, it was so weird at the time.
My family's half Scottish. So. I'm just going to move just because we've set this up slightly wrong for you. That's
Is
brilliant.
that better now?
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, everyone was playing with action figures and no one was really going outdoors or anything. Yeah. And everyone was playing this weird game called soccer.
I'm not a football fan. Well, I've got to say,
I'm gonna go
soccer
deep on
fan.
That, actually, if that's okay, like because, and then my parents had to put me into something, and the nearest thing close by that wasn't football or soccer was ice hockey because it had everything, the physicality, everything you could possibly think of. Plus, some guy, I was trying to make new friends as well because I'd left all my friends in Australia, and the kids that were in my class at school were playing ice hockey, so it made sense to put me into that. And that's how I ended up playing ice hockey.
So ice hockey was essentially, wasn't the first sport that you took part in, but was it the first sport that you really became passionate about?
Obsessed. Yeah, absolutely obsessed. So what happened was, I remember at the time, how like you hear people speaking about when they first started watching the UFC and they had it on a videotape. Well, I didn't really have much access, or we didn't have much access to professional ice hockey games at the time.
Yeah.
We just had
it's not a big sport in the UK. I mean, I did a bit of work with the Newcastle Vipers, they're not even around anymore. So I think maybe it tried to get a bit of a foothold, but it didn't catch on as much as it could have done.
Unfortunately, it didn't. But it peaked for a small period of time. But we'll get to that. But I didn't really have much access to it, and there was 2 videotapes going about. There was the best of the NHL, which was just a videotape of like amazing goals, penalty shots, silky moves, just beautiful passing. And there was another videotape going about, and it was hockey's hardest hitters.
Yeah, it's Wayne Gretzky.
He got absolutely railed in one part of that, and I just zoomed in on that. Like that was the thing I became completely obsessed with. The physicality, people smashing into each other at 30 miles an hour, guys having bare knuckle fights with each other within a game. So like a game of ice hockey would be going on, and then 2 guys would end up fighting each other within the game, and that would be getting refereed by the referee within the game. So it was a game within a game.
Can I just say...
Go on, yeah.
No, let me just jump in. I didn't actually believe when they said about fighting on hockey. I thought it was like...
No, it's true.
I didn't realise it was true. When I was at the Vipers game, because I was doing a bit of like combat training and conditioning work with those guys, and they actually threw the gloves off and started throwing bare knuckle punches at each other on the ice.
In training?
Couldn't believe it.
In training?
In the game?
Yeah, that happens.
That was kind of my question.
Yeah.
stop fighting quite quickly.
Yeah.
But the ref just, let's say the ref's like spectating and
Yeah, so
I couldn't believe it.
right, let me break it down for you, okay?
Yeah.
So you have
PEEP breakdown.
yeah, PEEP breakdown. So let's go deeper. So you've got different layers. So let's look at like layer 1. Layer 1 is 2 guys punching each other in the face in the middle of an ice rink with a referee in it, okay? Let's look at the next layer of it. There has to be an agreement between the 2 guys.
Yes.
Right? So it's like a contract they're both saying, and that contract is...
Pre-game.
No, during the game.
Right.
So like I will confront you and I will say, you want to go? And you'll say, yes, let's go. And so you'll drop your gloves and you'll start to kind of like size each other up. And then the referee will kind of stop the game and come and referee your fight. And that code of you agreeing with each other, there's a moral code within that. And that moral code is you're only going to use your knuckles.
Right.
Bare knuckle to the face. You can do some body shots as well, that's cool. But you want to go for the head. And what happens then is if a knee touches the ice, someone goes unconscious, or someone falls to the ice, you do not hit them. The fight is over, and that tends to just be it. Unless the guy gets back up and says, let's keep going, the fight will continue. So within this madness, there's a gentlemanly conduct within it. It's beautiful.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, right? So
A duel, shall we say?
yeah. But let's take it to the next layer. So these guys a lot of the time are referred to as enforcers. And so an enforcer within an ice hockey team, if you think about ice hockey, it's one of the fastest team sports on the planet. Everyone's wearing blades on their feet.
From a literal perspective, it's literally the fastest game.
It is, yeah, absolutely. When you hit people wonder why you wear pads and stuff, but when you're hitting each other about 30 miles per hour, and you're smashing off of the ice or off of the boards.
Yeah.
And so you've got guys in the team that are goal scorers, that are playmakers, but within all this, you might have bigger guys trying to take them out. And so your enforcer is the guy that keeps that momentum going, and he will look after those other guys. But have you got a question?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's built. I didn't want to.
It's within it. No, it's cool, man. Yeah. So within that, though, if you look at the enforcer as a person, he's not just a thug. He loves his team so much, or she loves her team so much. They're willing to sacrifice everything within themselves to protect their team, to fight for honor for their team. They'll sacrifice their hands because it's bare knuckle fighting. They'll sacrifice their face. They'll get scarred up. They'll sacrifice their ego, everything, and that can happen 2 to 3 times a week. Right? And so, like, you know, boxers, kickboxers, MMA fighters might have 6 to 8 weeks to train for one specific guy. A guy fighting on the ice could be fighting any shape or size at any time, 2 to 3 times a week at the drop of a glove. Right?
It's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Crazy. Well, that's kind of led on to, you know, like, I mean, I was just playing at like a semi-professional level, like junior hockey level, but it's the same ethos, it's the same morals all the way up to the top guys playing in the NHL. But they're doing it in front of millions of people to keep their job, and they're doing it probably knowing that some, you know, as you're getting older, some 19-year-old lion's going to come on the scene with super advanced sports science behind them, and, you know.
Question. We have a question from the audience.
Hi, sorry, the guy keep writing in, but I can't say his name on air.
Right.
And he's talking about Jamie Boyle, Paul Sykes' book.
Right.
And I don't know what he's.
Right.
I just want to say, like, what he's trying to say is Paul Sykes got a book on boxing.
Okay.
We do know who he is. It's just we don't understand the question.
No,
sure.
No worries. We'll get back to that. We'll let that build up, and then we'll get back. If I need to, I'll come over and have a look.
And then
And we have another question.
a shout out to the PEEP gang, cracking job. Also, combat sports fans, don't forget tonight on Sky Sports, is Super Fight Series, one of the leading UK K1 promotions.
Oh, cool.
So
And that's the owner of Super Fight Series is Emir
Sabasic.
Sabasic.
Yep.
Yes.
Emir Sabasic. So we've got Super Fight Challenge on tonight on Sky Sports. So
Super Fight Series.
Super Fight Series.
Sky Sports.
Mr. Emir Sabasic's Super Fight Series. So tune in tonight on Sky Sports. Is it Sky Sports 1, 2? Is there a Sky Sports 3? I don't know. So get onto your Skybox, have a little look on there, and tune in and watch tonight. So if you want to see some high-level kickboxing, K1 kickboxing, that is the place to tune in tonight. And thank you for your message as well. Thank you for the support. I need to ask you a question, just on what we're talking about and expanding on that. I remember reading about, I don't know if it's one of the magazines, about it was an ice hockey player, and he has the record for the amount of punches thrown during a game. Do you know who that is?
It might be one of the Boston Bruin guys. I think his nickname was Machine Gun Kelly.
Maybe it was Kelly.
It's
yeah.
possibly. It was
Yeah.
like it could be him. We could probably Google that. But there was a guy called Machine Gun Kelly that used to fight for Philadelphia Flyers.
Right.
Also known at that time they were called the Broad Street Bullies.
Right.
And he used to like have a piston fist on him.
Right.
But he wasn't really like a fighter per se. He just eventually started fighting.
Right.
And he had a machine gun on him.
Right.
And I think like you'll see like these two guys fighting each other, but it might look like a bit of a mess, but there's method to the madness. And I guess you're trying to get as many punches in as you possibly can on someone, and that's what he used to do.
So how would you train for that? So say your job as an enforcer, just to confirm, so you were an enforcer for your team. What was the name of the team you played for?
So I played for a few different teams. I mean, I played for Ayr, I played for Irvine, I played for Kilmarnock, played for Scotland, did a small tour of Canada. Then I was playing street hockey for Great Britain, but I never really got into any fights when I was playing for Scotland or Great Britain.
Right.
It was more like, I better not because my mum will get upset.
Shout out to Chris Reid's mum and dad.
But with
Chris Reid's dad's a black belt in judo. He's a great man as well. He's a tough guy. We're trying to set, actually, just on that, hashtag Putin versus Reid, because we're trying to set up a fight between Putin and your dad, isn't that right? Judo?
My dad would ice Putin.
What?
He would.
Well,
that's a killer.
That's I agree. My money's on your dad, but that's a hashtag. Putin versus Reid hashtag. We're going to start throwing some stuff
up. I think
up.
Putin's a fake black belt.
Really?
I think it is. Yeah.
I've
seen him like throw some people about and stuff, but I think they're just throwing themselves. You know, like when you see Steven Seagal doing Aikido stuff.
Yeah.
And they're kind of jumping about the place.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're doing with Putin.
Well, I want to see if we can set that up. So that would be a massive promotion. That we'll get your dad trained up
with radiation poison tomorrow.
It'll be fun. I think what it'll be we'll be wiped out at the house tonight. So is your dad still having the traditional Yorkie on a night?
Of course he is, yeah.
Good man.
He loves it. He always says, James says I can eat this.
You can't. The Yorkies, that's official. And and only me and your dad can do the point.
But of course, yeah. He loves the point in the picture.
Yeah,
now.
we have to do the point.
He's your biggest fan.
Thank you, man. I'm his biggest fan as well. He's a great man, your father, great man. Can I ask you, what training specifically? So here's a question. So you're an ice hockey player, and what position did you play?
I played multiple, so centre, defence, left wing, but mostly on the wing I would play.
Right.
And that was a kind of like defensive role as well as a kind of goal scorer type thing, yeah.
But you're also an enforcer, which is kind of not an official title, but kind of a recognised title or a recognised position, so to speak, but not kind of like named per se. You would do your ice hockey training, whether you're doing sprints or weights or working out on the ice. So my question is, I'm assuming that, but my question is, what training would you do specifically for your role as an enforcer? Would you hit the bag? Did you take martial arts training? Did you just work out with the hockey, the skates on and the blades on and the padding, and just hit a punch bag whilst you had all those on? Have somebody at the corner of the ice holding focus mitts whilst you're all padded up? How did you train for that? If you did,
I wish I'd thought of that stuff at the time.
I'm just coming up with some ideas. You see, that's Team
really
Alpha.
Cool,
that's your number one guy, sport specific.
You should start training some teams. I think at the time, I mean, this was like my kind of all the way through my teens to like my early to mid 20s. This was all happening, right? And kind of at that time, probably 19, 20 years old, I started to dabble with Muay Thai boxing.
Right. So that was your first martial art, Muay Thai?
It was, yeah.
Right.
It was my first martial art. Got a little
Question. Yeah.
Sean Ramsey.
Oh, Sean Ramsey, Rambo, what's up?
Shout out to the Ramsey posse.
Yes, there you go. Hi, Sean.
Hashtag Pete and Pace for gradings.
Hashtag
Pace for gradings.
Pace for gradings.
He hasn't earned his belt. He's paying for them.
This is well. We can officially say that Mr. Reid has earned his black belt the hard way up in the Scottish dojos, and that's hardcore.
Yeah,
Your dad would tell me a brilliant story about him and his friend who tore his toe.
No, it was my dad. So my dad was fighting in Glasgow in Scotland, and he was waiting for the guy to come onto the mat, and you've got to like bow at the side of the mat before you come on, and you bow to each other, and the guy was coming onto the mat and he tore his baby toe.
That was it. Yeah.
He caught his pinky toe on the mat, and my dad won the fight by default. Pretty cool.
That's really
These
cool.
things happen. But yeah.
So your martial, so yeah, the first martial art when you first walked into a gym, into a dojo, it was Muay Thai.
It was Muay Thai boxing. That was at the Wasabama gym in Ayr. Shout out to the Wasabama gym. Great gym, great bunch of guys. And they took me in, and I started cracking some pads and getting into a little bit of sparring here or there. Kind of got lined up for a fight at one point, but injured my foot. But I kind of wasn't overly interested in that side of things. I was just using it as a bit of cross training. While I was doing ice hockey, I think in my mind, I thought I probably, if I could become a little bit more proficient with a martial art, I could maybe be a little bit better at my sport. But at that time, I was starting to kind of phase out of ice hockey as well, and that's how I started to kind of fall into Muay Thai boxing, and then a little bit of boxing and a little bit of MMA, and you know how it goes.
I mean, I'm trying to think how to phrase this, but then at that time, you're a young guy, you're training, you're working out, you're ice hockey. Now you lived in Ayr, which is, I don't know, is a rough aspects to it, but you were kind of known. I don't want to go this route, but you were kind of a known, kind of in a good way, kind of, you were a tough guy in the town.
I guess so.
Yeah, you're a tough guy in the town. So did the martial arts, when you started taking up the Thai boxing? I mean, I'm not going to repeat some of the stories that you've told, some of the fun element of the stories that you've told me. But the Thai boxing, did you feel it was a good transition from ice hockey into Thai boxing? Do you feel going into Thai boxing specifically made you not necessarily more aggressive, but did you diffuse some of the, I don't know, I guess some of the masculinity you felt in a sense, maybe that's the right word. Did you feel that something was missing as you were coming from ice hockey? Did it fill a gap?
I think with moving into martial arts, it started to make me kind of recognize what I was doing. Like, I didn't really realize that, like, it got to the point actually when I was playing ice hockey, with the physicality aspect of it and maybe some of the fights I was having, they weren't really bothering me anymore. So like, I'd fought so much from such a young age to my early 20s that when it came time to throw down, I didn't really have butterflies in my stomach anymore. It was just like going through the motions, because nothing bad really happened all that much. I'd maybe get like a cut eye or a broken nose, which has happened multiple times. But when I moved into Muay Thai, these guys could specifically fight, right? So it was a different world to be in, and it started to make me realize like my being, as it were. Again, that transition of just fighting kind of standard dudes, maybe some guys that were a bit bigger than me, to being in a ring for rounds, 5-minute rounds, multiple rounds, fighting people that are proficient in shin kicking you in the head.
It's interesting that, because, for young guys and, high testosterone levels and, people want to fight and this and that, but, on the street or whatever and be a tough guy. But it's a different world when you go and train at a professional martial arts gym, isn't it?
Yeah, I started to realize
it separates
what it was
the
all
men
about.
from the boys.
Oh, totally, yeah. So openly, I probably used to get into a little bit of trouble when I was younger. When I started training there, a lot less trouble. I started to realize that a guy half the size of me could probably throw an elbow right into my nose and put me to sleep.
But what about that from like a psychological or emotional perspective? Do you think it's almost like what's the word? Like an epiphany, almost realizing, this is what you can do. And then did you find when you went to, because I mean, I'm sure, I'm sure we all heard about gyms and fighters who go and learn stuff and do a martial art on somebody. Yeah. But don't you think, I mean, or certainly at that gym, did you feel that the tougher guys are the complete opposite of what the perception would be?
Yeah, well, the guys that were actually competing were fantastic. They would spar at your level, but if you tried to turn it up a little bit on them, they would turn it up to 100 and just show you exactly where you were, And that was one of the things I found with different areas that I trained in with striking arts. The sparring side of it was always like a really difficult thing for me.
Yeah.
Maybe that was just because of like the way I was doing it. Maybe it was the way they were doing it. I can't really think right now, but I always found it quite difficult to not come out of it being a feeling as though I've actually been in a fight.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe I've just not sparred properly, and now I'm starting to realize that. But the sparring side of things was always quite a difficult one. But yeah, I used to really answer your question, to go back to your original question, with the high level guys, it was just on another level. It was on a complete other level. It was like as though you were telegraphing everything. It was like you were sending everything in the post to them 3 days before they could see exactly what was happening. And that maybe like made you want to try that little bit harder, but you just get humbled and slapped back down again. It probably took a while for me to learn those lessons, I would say. Yeah. Because of maybe the age I was, kind of early to mid 20s, trying to prove myself. But reality starts to kick in eventually, doesn't it?
It's interesting, just as I'm about to take on the next point, when you said about posting it to them, remember a great story about my favourite fighter of all time, Jack Dempsey. Oh yeah. Not the non-Pariel, but Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler. And he'd retired and he was coming back to fight. I think he was fighting Gene Tunney for the second time. After he'd retired. He'd been beaten by Gene Tunney and then he was coming back. So he had like a warm-up fight. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he fought Jack Sharkey in that fight. It was Jack Dempsey versus Jack Sharkey. Because he's coming back to fight Gene Tunney, so he's fighting Jack Sharkey, and apparently Jack Sharkey was outboxing Dempsey. And Dempsey, I mean, he was champion. He beat Jess Willard, I think, back in 1916. We became heavyweight champ. He was known for his punch, and he's kind of Dempsey rule. He's about my height, my weight, but he would kind of crouch down. Anyway, he's getting outboxed for round after round against Jack Sharkey. Dempsey's one of the, at the time, he was certainly I'm having a lot of trouble. The world's most popular. I'll just. Popular heavyweight, popular fighter, most popular athlete at that time. The heavyweight champion was revered around the world. So he's losing to Jack Sharkey. He's getting knocked about. Now, Dempsey, either unintentionally or intentionally, kept landing low blows to Jack Sharkey. And this was going on and on and on and on. And Sharkey was complaining to the referee. Well, it got to the point where Dempsey had landed another low blow to Sharkey. And Sharkey just dropped his gloves. He'd had enough. And he turned to the referee to say, what? And as he turned away, Dempsey just come up and just went, boom! Knocked him out, right?
Protect yourself at all times.
F out, yeah? So, fight goes to Jack Dempsey, in my opinion, justifiably. Protect yourself at all times, rule number one. Paralleling a little bit the Mayweather Ortiz, but we'll come. That's for another day. So, he's knocked out. And at the end of the fight, they interviewed Dempsey. I remember the days if that was microphone interviews or not, but anyway, or just newspaper interviews. So they interviewed him and said, what were you doing? He had his hands down. Why did you throw him up? Why did you throw the punch? Why did you knock him out? And he says, and then he said something like, well, what was I supposed to do? Send him a letter? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
mail him a letter. So I'm going to hit him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to get out and write the stationer and send it to him. So
you can't just call a timeout in the middle of a fight.
You can't just call a timeout.
Yeah. Does anyone know Jack Dempsey's ring name?
Manasseh Mauler.
Was that
I can give you his whole history.
James, you've actually just won a tub of protein and a t-shirt.
I've just won. Let's just be. Now we're going to keep our special guest. We've not finished with the questions. A lot. Yeah. In fact,
there's a lot to cover.
There's a lot to cover.
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's stay with that point. If you remind me, just as we're going to go into the competition, I want to come back and pick up from where we've left off, which is just talking about how you Muay Thai.
Hopefully, I'm letting it flow in.
It's flowing in beautifully.
There's so much to cover when it's like the martial arts.
There's a lot to go, but I just don't want to lose our train. So,
of course,
we're going to just take a time out. We're going to have a little bit of a competition time. We talked about the new upcoming duel show, which is Escape from Walker. Now, the prize is, you'll win a free ticket. The winner will win a free ticket. Is it one or two tickets? It could be, David, Mr. Wielder. Let's say 2 tickets for the duel fight show, Escape from Walker, if you can answer this simple question.
It's on the screen now.
It's on the screen now. And the question is, which film is the Escape from Walker logo homaging rather? Can you name, of that film, the film, the director's name, and the protagonist of that film? So essentially the hero of that film. So the dual promotion, Escape from Walker, what 2 films is that parodying? Homaging.
Yeah.
Sorry, homaging. So what 2 films is that homaging? Okay. The title, what is it homaging or giving kind of reference to?
See if I know the answer to that. Can I?
Have we got a rule that the guest cannot?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
And how do people answer?
Well, here's the thing. It's the director's name. The director's name and the name of the protagonist, so the hero of the show, and you can answer by contacting us during the show time, so you have until the end of the show, on Twitter at PEEP Magazine, on YouTube at peepmagazine.co.uk, on Instagram at PEEP Productions, or email us on contact@peepmagazine.co.uk. But most during the show.
What if Vladimir Putin answers?
If Vladimir Putin answers, he can have his 2 tickets, but then when he comes over to watch the show, we'll set him up with that
with my dad.
With your dad.
Yeah.
We'll get that match going on. So once more, the question is the Escape from Walker. What 2 films is that title homaging? What is the director's name and the protagonist, i.e. the hero's name? If you answer that, you'll win 2 tickets to the duel show. We also have a second competition, which I'm actually going to announce now. Okay, now in this competition, you will win an official Team Alpha. Can we get the oohs, please, Cliff, from behind camera as well? Team Alpha.
Nice.
Yeah.
Woofed.
Training shirt.
Look at that, Team
Can I
Alpha.
touch that? That's nice.
No, you can't touch it.
I'm sorry.
The Pretty Boy Assassin.
I want that. That's cool.
Dry
What's it say on the
fit
bottom?
tee. It is in double XL because that's how we roll at PEEP. We don't do anything by halves. Yeah.
I'm getting the,
And you can win this lovely shirt here. I'm going to get you one of these done.
Oh, thank you.
It's not a
I'd
problem.
appreciate that. That's nice.
This is a new style of the Team Alpha shirts. You remember the all with the wolf on? This is a new one.
That's
cool. Can we just zoom in to the AIM? I want to give shout out to AIM Leisure, a rising UK company. All, whether it's training shirts, training tops, vests, hoodies, leggings, they specialize in for men and women. AIM is a place to go. You want to Google that. And if you Google AIM, have a look at some of the stuff they have online. Is it reflecting off the?
That's it.
Yep. AIM Leisure, quality garment guaranteed, UK made. Support the UK rising company. The next Nike. So lovely quality.
I can guarantee that. That's nice.
Yeah. You got the word there from our special guest. So Team Alpha shirt. If you can ask this question, which is going to segue nicely into PEEP Mix, which we're going to go into once we've gone back to Chris, because I'd like to get Chris's opinion on this. So the question is this. I do apologise with throat and cold and things like that, so hopefully you can hear me. Which 5 actors have played the character Superman in the popular film and series adaptations? Okay, obviously a comic book adaptation. So which 5 actors have played Superman in the popular film and series adaptations? If you can get that question right and reply to us before the end of the show, you will win an official Team Alpha Pretty Boy Assassin training shirt. There's not many of these around. They're kind of special edition. My Fight Team has one. Steve Ibbotson has one. Chris Reid will shortly have one. So only the top athletes have these shirts. Excuse me. So, excuse me. So, I'm gonna pick up back up on that point. So,
yeah,
you're taking up Thai boxing. You're in the gym.
Yep.
So how did you progress from there in respects of martial arts, and also talk a little bit about your work as a psychiatric support nurse?
It's very expansive questions.
Without going to, just to give us an idea of a timeline, because one of the questions I had is tell us a little bit about where you've grown up but sure, I'm interested in your athletic pursuit. Okay. So we've gone ice hockey, Muay Thai. Mm-hmm. How do we go from there, reflecting on what you're doing during your working hours?
Yeah, it became a bit of a renaissance, man, with martial arts and different types of things. So I started getting into like the early form of CrossFit. Yeah, so nobody, like, keep watching. So
can I just say, I don't want to interrupt, but I've got nothing against CrossFit, but when people used to say CrossFit to me for years, I was like, I thought it was like a machine, like a CrossFit machine. Yeah. And when I finally found out what it was, I've been doing that for 10 years. I call it gym conditioning work. Anyway.
Okay, right. So kind of around about that time, I was getting into Muay Thai boxing. There was the very, very early form of CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And so all it was at the time was this like WOD, a workout of the day that was up on the TV screen, on your computer screen. That was basically just their website. Mm-hmm. And so I was training in a leisure club at the time, training in this martial arts gym, and I was doing these WODs. And so I was trying to do them in a leisure club, and they were trying to ban me from training there because I was running up and down the stairs, like carrying weights and doing these like crazy pull-ups. But I was in the bag in the gym as well, cracking the bag, doing my Muay Thai on the bag. And the gym manager came in one day and he said, "You can't hit that as hard as that. You're going to break it."
There's a limit to how hard you can hit.
I was like, "It's a punch bag." And he's like, "Well, don't kick it then."
I've heard that so many times. Thank you, sir. I've heard that so many times. I've been at gyms. Don't kick the bag.
Yeah. So I was in a gym getting told I couldn't work out, and I was getting told I couldn't.
You're working out too hard. What are you doing?
I know, right? But it's funny how everything, again, like I'm jumping about a little bit here, but it's funny how everything kind of changes because the way things are now, everyone is doing like circuit training, boot camp, CrossFit, Jim Jones type stuff now, aren't they? That's like the way a lot of these leisure clubs are starting to go. So I was maybe like the innovator, or like one of the early innovators of that. Nah, I kind of did it in its infancy. But I started to progress on from Muay Thai boxing. They had some MMA classes as well. I went to a few of them, felt super uncomfortable whenever the fight went to the ground because what am I going to do there? It's not part of my repertoire kind of like whenever I'm...
shed, so to speak.
Yeah, right. I wasn't into it. Plus, I didn't really know much about it. It was this different world for me.
We'll have a winner.
Well, which competition?
Winner. Chicken... T-shirt.
Braley Bunch TV.
Braley Bunch TV.
Well done.
Which competition winner?
The Escape from New York, LA Snake Plissken, the legend that is John Carpenter. Yay.
There you go. We have a winner of the competition to win, I believe, 2 tickets to the DUEL show on the 15th of December, I believe it is. I can correct. 17th. I like to throw a little curveball now and again. So the winning question... the winners, the question, the answer to the question, the answer to the question was this. It is the 2 films was Escape from New York and Escape from LA. The director is John Carpenter, and the star was Snake Plissken. In fact, that's for the superhero one.
Oh, right, okay.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
No. We want to show that anyway. I'm happy to show that just to show it. Whether
Okay.
It's good. But for the winner for the Braley Bunch. Thank you for your answer. If you can message your details to our good friend Cliff, who will take your details down, and we'll send those 2 tickets out to you, and we congratulate you on your win.
Contact at PEEP Magazine.
And contact us at PEEP Magazine. Probably the best way is through Instagram or through Twitter. That's perhaps the best way to get in touch.
The email is contact.
Or you can email us at contact@PEEP Magazine. Please continue.
Hello.
Hello. No, it's good. Well, what we'll do is we'll just please keep sending questions in. But what we're going to do for the next 5-10 minutes is just hold those questions on, and we'll answer them all in one go, guys.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so when I started doing the MMA stuff, whenever like the fight hit the ground, I just didn't like it. I'll be perfectly honest, I just felt really uncomfortable with it. I felt as though I couldn't defend myself, which didn't make any sense. I should have wanted to have learned that at the time. So I'd kind of avoided the MMA stuff, but I was a massive fan of it. I was watching UFC, I was watching Cage Rage.
How many years ago would this be? Because just 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
Probably about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
How long has UFC been about? Probably like when... Probably when UFC was in its infancy, I was starting to kind of get
Roman
into
numerals, which I'd like to bring back. I was saying about bringing them back because we're on like UFC 322.
Yeah.
Would it be nice to have like 30 X's, 32 X's, and then a 1? I think that'd be great on the poster.
Well, it was back when I think at one point they were calling UFC. They weren't even calling UFC by numbers. It was like names, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
like
yeah.
UFC Explosion.
I think it went from numbers
Apocalypse.
then to names. Yeah.
So I was kind of secretly watching this stuff, and at the same time, I was listening to like the early form of the Joe Rogan podcast when he was just doing it on his sofa, which led me on to watching Eddie Bravo, Nogi, Brazilian, 10th Planet Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it was a secret. You know, when someone would come into the room, I'd like close my laptop and what are you watching?
Yeah.
And, nothing, but I was actually watching.
Your parents were coming up at you.
What are you doing up there? And I was actually watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
When you're watching porn, that was fine, but the Brazilian, you just shut that down. Yeah.
No, Mom, I'm watching porn. But yeah, I was actually watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Sorry, I shouldn't say naked ladies.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I was watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just kind of like, I became obsessed with this. And at kind of around about that time, kind of mid-20s, just kind of going off and looking to maybe 26, I sustained a knee injury and subsequently quit ice hockey. And then I started really just doing a lot more Muay Thai, a bit more boxing again, but still in the back of my mind, I was desperate to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
But I think like the only places that were close by were just like MMA classes, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to wear the gi and have the belt and everything.
Yeah.
And just fast forward to years down the line, I ended up discovering a gym that was quite close by to me. It was it's a little village quite close by. Really tough bunch of guys, notoriously tough guys, but really, really great human beings.
Is this the gym you took me to that has the painting on the wall of the
That's
Japanese...
a different one.
Sorry,
that's a different one. That's my dad's old judo hall.
Got you. Right.
But it's much like that. And there was a black belt there, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, legit, and so I just started training. So it'll be 2 years in January. I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for. I just got my blue belt, worked really, 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 really hard for it. I mean, from my understanding of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the same with your kickboxing academy, belts just are not handed out. They have to be earned.
100%.
They can't be bought.
For real.
They can't be bribed.
For real. Just talking about when we first met, actually, because I used to work up in Scotland, our company's Sports Sense and EZ Sports. Remember those days in Glasgow?
Yeah, I was sponsored. That's how we met, wasn't it?
It was. Sorry, go on.
I was playing street hockey for Great Britain at the time, and I was sponsored by a supplement company. And I remember, I would probably maybe jumping about a bit here, but I remember you had your supplement company. I was sponsored by a different supplement company.
I think it was.
Kinetica.
Yeah.
And we were at this like event. It was like a kind of mini version of what's that thing called?
Like an expo.
Like an expo.
Yeah.
And like I was standing at like our little bit and I looked over at your bit and it was just like a bunch of killers. It was just like kickboxers, MMA fighters, the guy that was in Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember, What's
that guy's...
Ian White, a good friend of mine and who's trained with me, and I've helped him with his nutrition. We've trained together on the weights, etc. Ian White, he played Predator in the Aliens versus Predator movies. He was in Clash of the Titans, Prometheus. He played the alien in Prometheus. He was actually in the recent Star Wars movie. Shout out to Ian White. But he's trained in the Team Alpha way, and he's a great athlete himself. Fantastic guy, 7'1", but tremendous athlete. You know, if you saw him out of context, he looks about 6 foot. 'Cause he's kind of so symmetrical.
I've got a picture. I got a picture with him on that day, actually.
Right? Yeah.
And like, he's massive, just this huge dude.
He's a big dude. I remember the first time, my memory of the first time we'd met was, I was in EZ Sports in Glasgow. Shout out EZ Sports, even though it's no longer there. They were cool times. Yeah. And I just remember another Chris, who was running the shop. And I just remember looking over and seeing this guy over there, and I thought, hey, he's first impression is good looking dude. And I don't have a perception of people like shoeboxing people, not really shoeboxing, but having expectations of people going to be a certain way due to how they look. I don't have that, I take people as I find them. So, it's perhaps some people's first impression would be, he looks good, he seems very confident. I don't know if he had sunglasses on, he's going to be arrogant and cocky or whatever people would think. I didn't think that. My first impression of you was this almost compassionate aura about you, this positive aura.
Thank you.
And I thought he seems like a nice guy. And I started to chat to him. We just kind of got on really, really well. And that was my first memory of you. And I thought, this is an interesting guy. You're very eloquent and intelligent as well as obviously athletic. But I'm just wondering, at that time when I met you, so what was your main study of martial art? Because since then, I also remember a training session we had actually in, what was the park? What was it? But what is the park called in Glasgow? What's the name of that park?
Victoria Park.
Is it Victoria Park?
I think it's Victoria Park, yeah.
And I remember having a training session with you there when we're running up hills and we're doing sprints and
we were going hard.
We were really doing sprints. Outdo each other and competing against each other. It was the middle of summer. We had Mikey.
Yeah, Mikey was with us.
Shout out Mikey was there with us.
Tops off.
And top tips off, 100%. And we're talking about Charles Mawson, who was an explorer, and we were kind of referencing him together to kind of to keep us going, to kind of so we didn't quit, because Charles Mawson was this I think it was New Zealand or an Australian explorer who was stuck in the Arctic, and he lost I think 70% of his body weight, and he was eating dog bones to survive, and then falling down crevices and pulling himself back up, and he survived for kind of, I don't know, it was a year or something like that. I don't have all my data points in front of me, but we were motivating each other with that, and neither of us would quit. And then we started training together. I remember a training session after some of the commentary I'd done at a big MMA show in Glasgow. We met up the park and training the range, shaking trees and things like that, and working out.
It was awesome.
A great time, man. But I guess at that point, and since then, you've trained obviously in your Muay Thai, but then you moved on to but as well as training with me in my style of kickboxing, my power kickboxing academy. You've achieved a blue belt in power kickboxing. In my academy, in my power kickboxing, with the 7 belts, there's 7 levels. You basically run through from white, yellow, green. I think there's blue, and then you're up to purple, brown, black, and there's like a black. It's 2 stripes, which is like your ninja or your kind of your highest level. And you're talking 10 years easy to get from, you're not given a white belt if you come into my academy. You're not given a white belt. Your white belt is like, 3 to 6 months of hard training, commitment, perseverance, perspiration. It's built on not so much not a grading at all. It's built on your ability. It's built on your dedication, your discipline. Yeah. It's perhaps if you have a fight career based on that, but your character is one of the most solid parts of that. So to achieve a blue belt in my academy, you're talking 3 to 5 years to get a blue belt. Do you know what I mean? Or certainly, round about the 3-year mark to get a blue belt, and your black belt, you're looking at 10. So they're not being given away. You've achieved a blue belt in power kickboxing. You've achieved a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So my question is, when we met, where were you on your martial arts kind of journey? Sure. And where did you go from there to where you are now?
Sure. Well, at that time when I met you, I was actually playing street hockey for Great Britain.
Right.
And I was getting ready for World Championships in Bratislava. Actually, at that time, I'd found out that I'd actually sustained a knee injury. I had a torn meniscus, and that limited what the things I was able to do. So I had to lay off the kicking side of things to a certain extent. And so I just concentrated solely on boxing. Mm-hmm. And so probably at that stage where we had met, I was just concentrating on really just the boxing side of things. And that kind of led us to doing quite a lot of pad work together and when we were training together. Mm-hmm. Following what happened was, I remember just before the World Championships in Bratislava in Slovakia, I was speaking to an orthopedic consultant, and he said, look, I can operate on the knee, but you would miss the World Championships, and then there'd be X amount of time to try and recover from it, or you can just keep putting up with it because it looks like you've had it for a while, and when it starts to get worse, I'll operate then. So I waited till after the World Championships, and then I just continued, I think, just doing like kickboxing. But I wasn't really training anywhere at that point. I was just in gyms, cracking bags, meeting up with friends like that I knew were doing like Thai boxing or kickboxing, and we would just do things together, be it on the beach or in gyms. I wasn't really going to classes anymore. I just felt like I wanted to have like a little bit more freedom in that sense. And so that's where I was at that point. But again, still at the back of my mind, I wanted to do some type of grappling art, but in the right place. I think like I was up at the Grip House a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember.
I trained with Mikey. But it was just like a little bit out the way from Ayr to Glasgow to really make it like a sustainable thing I would want to do, especially while I was still playing hockey. But then ultimately I quit hockey and transitioned into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu going for you? Is that...
I love it, man. I'm not going to start floating about in my chair right now, but you know, I think most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys do when they start talking about it, but I don't know if that is just the effect of watching so much stuff on YouTube about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that ends up inceptioning you and you feel you have to speak that way about it, but it definitely has altered my way of thinking. So back to that initial point when I said I started doing MMA type stuff and it would hit the ground, I would get super uncomfortable, I wouldn't go back because I was insecure about it. It all started to make sense when I turned up to this gym, and probably the blue belts and the purple belts thought, oh yeah, here we go, I've got a grappling dummy. Because that's the way Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu works. You are probably going to be the nail for a while until you start to become the hammer. You have to live roll with each other, you have to drill with each other, you have to flow roll with one another, you have to practice. It's super uncomfortable initially, you'll get strangled, arm barred, feel like you're getting crushed. It's horrible, but as time goes on, you slowly learn how to survive, and as time goes on a little bit more, you slowly learn how to fight back, and as time goes on a little bit more, you start icing people yourself, and it feels amazing. But that initial part of it really made me question myself as a man. I thought I was pretty tough leading up to that point, like multiple ice hockey fights, quite proficient with my hands in kickboxing and Thai boxing, to being dragged to the ground and strangled by someone half the size of me.
It's a humbling time, isn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah, absolutely. I remember the first session I had, I got strangled maybe about 16 times, armbarred multiple times, and I got in my car and I had a lump in my throat. I thought I was going to cry. And all honestly, that's how I felt. I thought I was going to burst into tears because I thought, what just happened to me? Like, this cannot happen. And I was trying to like ragdoll people and wrestle, and they would just kind of ride me like a bucking bronco till I would just like burn out, and then all of a sudden this arm would just wrap around about my neck, and I would be at the point of which I'd nearly fall asleep. But I think that's why people quit it at such an early phase, like I was doing with the MMA stuff initially, because it is such an uncomfortable thing. And you can probably relate to that with people that maybe come into like a kickboxing gym as well. They probably start to feel a bit uncomfortable. You know, it's all cool, like cracking pads, but as soon as it comes to sparring, it's just a different thing.
Well, it is. I mean, just on 2 points. I mean, my experience, because I've trained. I'm not graded as you are. That's something I'd like to do when I retire.
Sure.
But I do have experience in Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu through David Elliott and Tyrone Elliott, principally with David. So I studied Jiu-Jitsu for maybe 3 years consistently, and then off and on and over since then.
That's a good base. That's brilliant.
Yeah, to have that. And I remember my memory of going to the jiu-jitsu club to start with was standing up with David on my back and him choking me out, and then just thinking, right, okay, this is something new. And it was I mean, I've done a year or so of judo before then, and I suppose that was about my own experience on the ground. But I remember saying to David when he put a submission on, say, like, complete it, not to be egotistical or macho about it, but just to kind of appreciate, is it real?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So not to be, machismo, say, oh, I want you to break my arm or to choke me out unconscious, but I'd want those things put on until I actually got an understanding of them, and I had a great passion for that. And then some of the wrestling experience with Ian Malone, and I sometimes regret that I didn't, in a sense, grade in it, because I think I could have been of a solid grade at this point. But that's something I think I'll come back to. Yeah, but I do enjoy my jiu-jitsu.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm saying this to everyone now. Don't worry about belts. Don't worry about grading. Again, it's like a jiu-jitsu thing. People say it's all about the journey. Just forget about that side of things.
Yeah.
The belts will come as they go.
Yeah.
I remember, like, with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu side of things, it is horrendous. But let's kind of take it back to, like, when I was speaking about, like, the first layer of fighting in ice hockey. When you look at it from just two guys punching each other in the face, it's just two guys punching each other in the face. Then there's that other layer of the gentleman's agreement, the moral code, to the next layer of this, like, companionship, this tribe where you're trying to protect your tribe, you're trying to look after each other, you're trying to take care of the bully that's trying to bully everybody. If you look at that if you take that kind of intelligence and look at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu point of view with that hat on, it's just high level problem solving with dire physical consequences. If you really look at it that way, all it is someone trying to inflict problems upon you. You're trying to solve those problems, and it's an ever changing, ever evolving, growing universe that's in front of you, and you have to try and minimize all these things that are happening while you're trying to come up with an attack at the same time. Because I remember, like, I was showing my mum, she was like, what's this thing you're doing now? And I was like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was showing her it, and she was like, oh, I don't really like that. And I was just explaining it to her, this is what's happening here, Mum. It's the guys are wrestling, but they're trying to submit each other, and but yeah, I just kind of wanted to make that a couple of points there on that, like the high level problem solving with dire physical consequences.
I like that. Yeah. It's that's the way to look at it. I mean, I think it's interesting as well, because the jiu-jitsu, the 2-3 years or 3 years I was training with Speedy, and then, my off and on touch into jiu-jitsu at different clubs, a little bit with Ian at Origin, just, a small amount with Tyrone, and then just kind of work on my own stuff a little bit with you as well, and this kind of thing. It's just, it is obviously very different to the striking element.
Sure.
And as you say, it is high level problem solving. But there's just a kind of, it's interesting that it's a very different kind of feel towards, boxing or kickboxing or striking art. And there's a real kind of solid beauty to it. But when I had done jiu-jitsu for the vast majority of the time, it was always without a gi, but fighting guys with gis and not having the pleasure of using a gi. Yeah. But after talking to you today and doing a little bit with Tyrone, I mean, the gi is, I think for me personally, definitely the way to go. Yeah. I just think there's a eloquence and an elegance and a beauty, to training and learning in a gi. What's your thoughts on the gi no gi kind of discussion?
There's a few different arguments, isn't there? So me personally, I'm a gi geek. I love wearing the gi. I love the feel of it. I feel as though it's quite real. If I were to try and grab someone that's wearing a hoodie right now, like your man over here, I could strangle him with it. I could ragdoll him to the ground with it.
Strangle that hoodie.
Strangle him.
Sorry.
Rogan made the point about strangling out Guy Ritchie with his tie. So,
right? Yeah. So it makes sense, right? But then there's the other camp. I think cross-training between both of them is like the right answer. But you have people on the other camp that say no gi is more real, and I'm like, it's more real. You've got people wearing tights and a tight Under Armour top. I never see people like that in Tesco. How is that real? It's not going to happen. You're so slippery. So it's got to be somewhere between the two, because if you're on a fight on a beach, then it's a guy just in board shorts. Yeah. So I think so if you're using the gi, you can use the gi as a weapon against the person. You can use it to protect yourself. There's going to be less friction as well. If it's no gi, then you don't have those weapons and tools that you can use. You're only going to be able to try and grab like limbs and necks, you know? So it's going to be like a much faster pace. For me, I'm a gi geek.
It's a whole debate. I mean, the gi no gi, and then talking about the real debate and why does it always have to come back to fighting? If we're talking street fighting, not competition, why does everything have to be real or unreal? What is real or unreal?
A point as well is, so like this came up as well. Is jiu-jitsu a fight? Is it a fight or is it a match?
What is a fight?
Exactly, and so that would take it to the point as well as like Muay Thai a fight, is kickboxing a fight, is boxing a fight, because you're not taking the person to the ground.
Yeah,
I think it's all it's combat sports. It's all a fight.
It's that. I mean, if you is it going to help you in a street fight? Is it going to help you in a street fight? I think there's so many elephants. There could be elephants in a street fight. I don't know.
I think you
it
could
happen.
An elephant.
I think I could. I think
you could fight one.
I could take an
rhino.
elephant. If there's any elephants out there watching it,
let's go to the zoo.
Hashtag Putin Reid. Hashtag Watling versus elephant.
Animal wise. Right. Okay. So we have like a bunch of animals. Okay. So we've got a bunch of animals outside. Firstly, we've got a teenage bear. Do you think you could take it? Like, what would you do if it just came in here right now and was going to attack you?
I actually aggressively came in.
Yeah, like James, we're just locking in a room with a bear. What would you do? Would you kick it in the head? Would you take its back?
If it was just hand to hand against a bear, I'd probably try and kick it in the nose. I think I'll punch it in the nose and keep my distance.
You just keep distance,
and
try and get out of there.
Yeah, range.
But if you're locked in,
I'd want to make friends with a bear. I like bears.
Yeah,
but if it was, I had no choice. I would look to try and punch it on the nose.
Don't outrun a bear.
Yeah, you don't want to run away from it.
I would try and take its back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, kicking its nose and trying to get range on like an animal that's running towards you. Yeah. I left that one wide open.
That's what we're building to.
I'm trying to take
I've got it in the show notes. Cliff wrote that 2 days ago.
Sorry, Mom.
Brilliant. But
yeah, sorry.
It's a whole debate. I mean,
people have Peter on our case here now. Sorry, Peter.
Yeah. It's like a whole debate. What's why there's so many layers here that would be a whole show on its own. But what is a real fight? I mean, are you studying a martial art to fight, or are you studying a martial art not to fight? Isn't it you said before? Isn't it the journey? The process of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the argument could be made. Could you pick different elements into a fight? I mean, is a full MMA rules competition a fight? It's not. Could a fight not be somebody has a disagreement with you and decide to reverse their car over you or something?
Eyes.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. So I think the beauty within the martial art is the martial art itself, not whether or not it would be, whether or not it's going to help you in a fight. Are we talking about the psychology of a fight, the escalation of a conflict? Are we talking about an assault where you just attacked, where somebody just comes and hits you with a brick, and how do you defend that? So
I think can we go deep on PEEP again?
Yeah, let's go deep on that. Could be that could be its own thing. Deep on PEEP.
We just created a thing, deep on PEEP. Oh, perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. Ideal.
Fantastic. So, let's go deep.
Deep on PEEP. Let's look
PEEP.
at the martial arts side of things with how it affects your life. Okay.
Yeah. So from a physical or a psychological, emotional perspective.
Psychological and emotional.
Yeah.
So I think martial arts for me definitely makes me feel a lot calmer. It helps me to solve problems at work a lot better. If things start to get in my way, like someone trying to road rage me, it doesn't really bother me. Whereas before, it probably would have, I think like I know now that my capabilities, I don't know the person in the other car's capabilities. I think if you're doing like a higher level problem solving martial art where someone's trying to kick and punch you in the head or someone's trying to strangle you to death, what's worse than that in your life,
Yeah, oh yeah, I feel that from competing. It's like, competing in front of, 2,500, 3,000, and I love Americans, most of who are rooting for me over in Chicago against a guy who's like, ranked number 2 or 3 in the world at your weight, who wants to take your head off. What's anything going to compare to that,
Exactly.
And going deep on PEEP again, it's interesting. I was watching with my son, love my son, watching kind of a games review. And I don't know how you feel about this actually. And he was playing the new Call of Duty, the World War II.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to phrase this, and he's kind of, you know, on the beach. Is it not the Battle of the Bulge, but when the you know, the drop down on the you know, they come up on the kind of the
kind of Normandy thing on the beaches.
Yeah,
of Normandy,
and then it drops down. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to think of remember the name of the kind of the boats that they went in on. It drops down like the troop carrier. And he's running on, he's shouting, he goes, oh, you know, this and that. And I'm thinking, dude, you've never experienced even a fraction of what you're going through. And it wasn't necessarily being derogative, but in a sense, he kind of was. But then that could bring up a whole debate of, you know, should there be games about World War II and things like that? And I think that there should be. But the point is that the vast majority of people who play, let's just take that game as an example. The vast majority, if not every single person who's ever played that game, or the vast majority, have never experienced anything, even a fraction of what they're actually going through then, and therefore have never had the, you know, that physical and emotional challenge. Certainly they get, you know, a dopamine release, a hit from playing it, as you do, because I love computer games, and we'll actually do a section on gaming. But my point is this, is that I suppose there's several layers. And one point is that what we experience in a competitive and a martial arts environment, you know, even at the highest level of competition, is never going to be even a touch really on what, you know, previous generations have experienced in times of war. Of
course.
You know, they're the real heroes, the real martial artists, the real kind of, you know, warriors. So there's that. And then the other aspect of, you know, perhaps it would be of service to males and females, but let's say particularly young males who are there playing, you know, the games and getting some kind of, you know, enjoyment from that, to actually go to a martial arts school and experience that, and feel that side of the coin as well, you know.
I think even doing any type of physical fitness though.
Oh, absolutely.
We're that's the way we're built. We're built to work, to fight, to create, to procreate. And so if you're just doing like your 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, going home watching TV, you probably are going to be a bit of an emotional person. You maybe are going to be a little bit angrier than normal with silly little things. But the people I tend to find that stick with martial arts or work out pretty hard tend to be a little bit more centered, a little bit more well adjusted. They don't really get angry about things as much as you're that kind of other category, if I can categorize, because there's all that, you know, all those pent up kind of emotions and you know, chemicals and what's the word, hormones and you know, testosterone, etc. And it's maybe not directed in the right way. Whereas if you could, you know, if you get all the kids to go and take some kind of physical exercise, whether it be a martial art, whether it just be going to the gym, maybe it just be going for the run. I mean, Will Smith says to be successful, read and run, you know. So don't you think, rather than, and as again, I'm a big fan of gaming, I'm a big fan of computer games, and just out of interest, here's some figures for you. The recent release of Call of Duty World War II, the game we were just referencing before, in its opening weekend created $500 million in 2 days. $500 million. Yeah.
I mean, you know, games are, it's at a point now
crazy amount of money.
where the gaming industry as a business creates greater wealth than the movie and the music industry combined. Now, the music industry is not really a surprise because there isn't really much of a music industry. From what I understand, you know, iTunes is kind of dominating that. Gone are the days of record companies being the big thing. However, here's the thing. You know, gaming is a huge deal. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, is that perhaps some kind of physical activity combined with that is what we need, you know?
Have you seen the...
And perhaps not the VR route.
Okay.
Because I'm not a fan of the VR route. But no, because
I'll take those words back.
No, I want Chris's opinion on that. For me, it's not the VR route. It's actually have that separate to your gaming, because I don't really like gaming online. I like to just sit and have that time to do it, because I'm a very social person in the sense I'm working with people. I have a beautiful career that I get to work with a lot of incredible people like yourself, like Cliff. You know, today I've been over at the Hub of Wishes, working over at Tyne College. Shout out Tyne College. We have some of those guys on a future show as well. And I'm very lucky what I do. So when I go and do a bit of gaming, which I don't have much time to do,
you love it.
I just love just switching off, man. I don't want to be online.
What's the first online game you played?
I've even played an online. I've never actually played a game online and sat and played it. I've had little pieces of it. Chris put me on an online game once.
First online? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one I played online, yeah. I was never really into online stuff because I was always playing sports.
Yeah.
It just made me raging.
I just like to... Can I just...
Angry.
One of the greatest games I've ever played in my life is a game called Braid by a genius called Jonathan Blow, which was just kind of like... just like a platformer, but the puzzles within it are so. Excuse me, I'm struggling for words here. They were so let's just say for want of it, in layman's terms, so well designed and thought out and implemented that it just drew you into it. And once you solved the puzzle, you felt like the smartest man alive. And I remember literally jumping up and going, yes, John. And it was just and it took me nearly 2 years to play through that game. Really? I initially got into it through the music. I used to listen, and I still do actually when I'm working. I just put the braid music on, and it helps me to work. But before I even played the game and bought it, I spent a year listening to the music, listening to the creator Jonathan Blow talk about the game, and eventually I bought it and sat. I had Emily and Rhodes with me. And ran it, and I was like, this is the most exciting time ever. But I think games are very important for emotional development to a certain extent. You can learn a lot through gaming. There can be a benefit if you're physically incapacitated, and that's your way of taking off chronic pain and things.
It's good banter as well. Like I've got friends that live all over the world, and we sometimes go online and just have like a banter, and
there's that element too.
Get angry and have a bit of a laugh. There's good elements to it, but
it's interesting. I'm just wondering on the PEEP goes deep. Can we go deep talking about the Vegas trip? No, don't talk about the Vegas trip. Now we're here at PEEP. We have talked a little bit.
We've been live 1 hour 50.
This has been our longest show. We're not going to wrap it up just yet. I'm.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
So earlier on, we were talking about heavyweight boxers, okay, and this was something that was spoken about last week.
Yeah, let's go back to our combat news section. I'd like to get your opinion on the heavyweights. We're talking about Deontay, Donatani, DW. We're talking about Tony Wilder, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury. What are your thoughts?
What about Joseph Parker, the guy from New Zealand, heavyweight with the WBO title? Why are we not talking about this guy? The guy's a killing machine.
We are now.
Why aren't we talking about him?
Why are we not talking about him? Where is he? So you've got Anthony Joshua's camp offered him an 80-20 split. 80-20, and he said no to that. Yeah. So here's my proposal. I'm going to sign everybody, right? And we're going to get Tyson Fury to fight Joseph Parker in England.
That would be a great fight. See, that's to be a great, because I was struggling to think of an opponent.
Yeah. Sorry, on you go.
No, that's how I just want to add that, because I was struggling to think of an opponent for Tyson Fury.
Yeah. And you've got your man Joseph Parker, so that's going to be for a belt, right? Yeah. And then you can get Deontay Wilder to fight Tyson Fury, a massive fight, and then you can have a winner take all the belts. Yeah.
That'd be the WBO, IBF, IBA, WBA, and WBC belt.
Question.
I love that. Question.
Believe it or not, Tyson Fury has just got in touch.
Oh, really?
He says, I'm knocking out all bums.
Seriously?
That's amazing.
Let's see that.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's so cool, man. Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury. You've got nothing but love from PEEP magazine.
Tyson, I've been following you on Instagram. Add me, Chris_Hollywood_. Yeah, I've been watching Tyson Fury like over the past few days. He's been cracking the pads and cracking the pool noodles. Yeah. He's getting back on it, isn't he? Cutting a bit of weight.
He's on it, man. He's looking good. Like I say, he's got a fantastic style. He's the most fluid heavyweight out there. Do you know what I mean? Without a doubt. Great fighter. And as I said, from the very start of the show, and we both said we're both big fans of Tyson Fury, always have been,
I think we were speaking about this earlier on about being like a legitimate champion, and to be a legitimate champion you need to have all the belts, or you need to defend your belts, don't you? And so from the boxing side of things, you're going to need all the belts. And so and also with Anthony Joshua, but with Anthony Joshua, there would be an asterisk beside his name if he didn't fight Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury's undefeated. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think for me, Joshua cemented his status as legitimate IBF and WBA world champion at this moment in time. Yeah, by beating Klitschko. But obviously beating Klitschko once, and I know, and Joshua knows this, that you need to go on and fight the best guys out there. And the best guys in the heavyweight division are Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury,
and Joseph Parker.
Your man Joseph Parker with the WBO.
Parker, right?
Yeah, I think so. WBO belt, which at the time is recognised now equally, and rightly so. But you had initially the IBF. the IBF and the WBC, which was I think originally just one, and then sorry, let me correct that. It was the WBA, WBC, which was one unified body, and then they split into two, and then they were taken over by I think Southern America promoter would take those, or businessman to take those over, and then America didn't have any control of any belts. And I think it was a New York Boxing Commission, which initially was the title. You'll correct me in a minute. So the WBA and the WBC and then split. They were run by, I think, Southern American promoters or businessmen. America didn't have any ownership of any belt. So then in the 1980s, the IBF belt was brought out, which I think was run by Bob Lee, I think, was running that one. And then you had, so they were your three main belts. Yeah. And then the WBO belt was then released, which again was, I think that was another Southern American promoter businessman brought that one out. And they were recognized as the four belts. And so. Yeah,
Joshua's got the IBF, the IBO, WBA. Deontay's got the WBC. Tyson Fury obviously doesn't have anything right now.
At this point, yeah.
At this point, and Parker's got the WBO.
Yeah. So they're your most, the point being is your most recognized belts, the WBA, WBC, IBF, and the WBO. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the fighters that are most recognized, but we still want to see belts. PEEP excess. Now, because we have Mr. Reid.
Oh, we've got a question.
We have a question. There's so many things we haven't covered, so I'm just debating whether or not we're going to cover the other two subjects, but we'll take this question first.
Sean Ramsey asked us to perform his elephant impersonation.
Can we do an elephant?
You don't want to see that.
I don't want to see it.
He's being rude.
PEEP goes deep.
He's being rude right now.
Sean Ramsey, Fury's got far sitting in his caravan.
Can PEEP go deep with this elephant? Do you know what we're going to do? We're going to just crack on. That's what we're going to bring it all to bear. This is you're with PEEP live. PEEP excess. We're going to talk a little bit about film, and we're going to talk a little bit about film genre. I'm going to get Chris's opinion on this. The first thing the PEEP excess. Can we get the graphic up there? I want to see. It's up. Let's get if we're doing graphics, let's get the Team Alpha graphic up there, my man. Team Alpha 1424. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow Mr. Reid over here on Chris Hollywood, is it?
Chris_Hollywood_, and you can check out my website, www.thechrisreidshow.com, for all your Chris Reid needs.
There you go. Right, what we're going to do now, we're going to talk Dark Days. We're going to talk film genres, and we're going to talk the Chris Reid Show. That's exactly what we're going to do right now. So Dark Days, this is a film overview, not a film review or a film preview. It's a film overview. If you remember, I reviewed on the book review we did a few months ago. We're talking about a book which was about the first, I think it was the first black boxing champion who was brought over from America into the UK, who found work in Anik and worked his way up through the bare knuckle boxing world. We're going to talk today about a DVD which I hadn't read the book, but was nice as an outsider, so to speak, to talk about. We're going to talk about a film called Dark Days. Our CEO, representative of PEEP, creator, co-conspirator of PEEP magazine, one of his favorite films, documentaries, I should say, called Dark Days. So we just can we? Oh, we have a graphic, so we don't need to film. I'm going to give you a quick film synopsis, and we're going to look at this a little bit. Dark Days. For years, a homeless community took root in a train tunnel behind New York City, braving dangerous conditions and perpetual night. Dark Days explores this surprisingly domestic, subterranean world, unearthing a way of life unimaginable to those above. Through stories simultaneously heartbreaking, hilarious, intimate, and off the cuff, tunnel dwellers reveal their reasons for taking refuge and their struggle to survive underground. Filmed in striking black and white, with a crew that comprised of the tunnel's inhabitants and scarred by legendary turntablist DJ Shadow.
Oh yeah. Turntablist. Yeah.
I was doing so well with my reading there.
Nice, Will. Yeah.
Can we let's run that back and I'll pick it up from filmed.
Turntablist.
Filmed in striking black and white with a crew comprised of the tunnel's inhabitants and scored, not scared or scarred, but scored by the legendary turntablist.
Is he Tony's friend?
Turntablist. Turntablist.
Oh man.
Turntablist. DJ Shadow. Can I get a shout out for DJ Shadow? Introducing. Dark Days remains a soulful and enduring document of life on the fringe. It is the winner of the 2000 Film Festival, Sundance Film Festival. That's the number one.
Yeah.
So I needed some quotes. So it's won 3 awards at the 2000 Sundance Film Festival. Some quotes. A film of staggering force by Peter Travers of Rolling Stone magazine, and profoundly life-affirming from CityLink magazine. So this film is essentially about, as it says on the tin, people who through choice or through circumstance decide to live in this subterranean world, so in the tunnels around New York City, carving out a life for themselves, surviving, thriving in that world. Perhaps they'd lost employment, perhaps they'd lost a loved one, perhaps they'd suffered some kind of life tragedy, and that, and we kind of spoke about that before, how life, life by definition is life is suffering through definition, and it is painful, and it is a trial, and it is difficult, and it is challenging, and that's it. And I think I said before that, even if you lived in a so-called quote-unquote perfect world, you had all the money, all the material possessions, all the relationships, you felt great all the time, all those kind of things, you're still going to die.
Yeah.
So you're still going to experience suffering. You're still going to experience old age. That's not necessarily old age. You might die before then, but that's inherent with being a human being. However, what makes us truly human is to be able to undergo these trials and tribulations and these these circumstance and overcome circumstance, and be able to find some kind of joy within ourselves or around us or in somebody else. To allow us to continue moving forward. So these guys are living in subterranean cabins. Not much food. I can imagine how cold it would be, and yet, having not seen the film, because I did say it's an overview, not a review. There's joy and laughter as well as the tears. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's got a high recommendation from Cliff.
I'm always looking for a new documentary to watch. I need to check this out. It sounds crazy.
Yeah, and I think it gives, there goes the microphone. It gives a lot of perspective into our own lives, where in our own lives, we can be upset because, it's in a sense, it's a cliche, but we don't, we lose a pound, it's sold out of our favorite cereal at the supermarket. We can't get a parking spot. We're 10 minutes late for something, And we take these small events and make them into bigger events. You said before about, stubbing your toe, or I think I remember what you said, and then you allow that to kind of self-perpetuate and grow, and it kind of ruins your whole day, and then you end up shouting at your kids or your wife or girlfriend or whoever. Mm-hmm. And yet in this instance, you got people who are living in, perhaps by choice or, as I said, by circumstance, living in boxes and tunnels in New York City, and yet still be able to find some kind of joy within that,
Yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing. I need to check that out, man.
So it's interesting. So it's life affirming. So if you're having a bad day, perhaps run this movie. It's by Dogwolf, which is a company, Dogwolf, which I remember they also did produced a documentary called Blackfin, which is about the killer whales at SeaWorld and what happened to them. Interesting documentary. Yeah. However, we're talking about Dark Days. You can go on Amazon right now, and I like Amazon. Jeff Bezos.
I use Amazon too.
Amazon's a great little tool. Yeah. Get yourself into Amazon. Go find this documentary, Dark Days. It's it's 17 years past. However, it still has relevance. Of course it does. We could talk about things from hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago that still have relevance. Of course it does. Billions. So go on Amazon, check this out. You might be able to kind of Google it. You might be able to go on YouTube and perhaps run up some clips of it and have a look for yourself. But this is our film overview and film recommendation of the week of this show. It is called Dark Days. Now, following on from Dark Days, we're going to talk about film. I'm going to talk a little bit about movie genres, specifically the superheroes genre. I think I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Where's my tissue?
It's, I don't know where your tissue is, man.
I don't know where it's gone.
Just do this inside your t-shirt and just do that.
I think my cold's getting worse, but hey, we're professionals. We're going to continue. I want to talk about the superhero genre.
Okay.
The superhero genre of filmmaking has gained massive popularity in let's call the modern age of superhero films over the last 20 years. Highlighted by the recent release of Thor Ragnarok, which have you seen Thor Ragnarok yet?
Not yet, but I've heard it's mega. I need to check it out.
It's a good movie. It's a great film directed by Taika Waititi.
What date is it?
What's his name?
The new
17, I think.
What do you call it? Comes out today.
That's on my next
Sorry,
line.
okay, right. Sorry.
That's okay. That's why you're
gun.
here. And the imminent release of Justice League, directed
yeah.
by Zack Snyder, but he had another director take over due to that horrible tragedy that it suffered. The train and the juggernaut continues to roll forward, with great momentum and power. Now, if we look back at what I would say is arguably the first kind of modern age superhero film, the first X-Men movie starring Hugh Jackman, directed by Bryan Singer, which just came out I think it was released in 1999. There was obviously superhero movies before that. You can go right back to the Superman series, which is one of the questions.
Yeah.
For me, highlighting those older films would be the late, great Christopher Reeve, Superman.
Yep.
1, Superman 2, I enjoyed Superman 3. Probably not say so much about Superman 4, and even Christopher Reeve said that. God bless Christopher Reeve. And the fantastic, incredible Tim Burton Batman movies. I would love one, yeah. If I could get a tissue as well, that would be great. The Tim Burton Batman movies, Batman Returns. Everybody's leaving the studio right now, so I'm just going to continue on my own. I might throw out a freestyle rap. Oh, you okay?
Sorry,
we're going to go back.
I watched. Can I just quickly?
Yeah, please do.
I actually watched Superman fight Superman the other day. There.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was watching Superman scenes. I don't know how I ended up on it, but I watched the scene where it was Superman fighting
Superman
Clark
3.
Kent.
Yeah,
and he ended up in the junkyard,
Yes,
and there was
right.
like the cars and stuff, and he was throwing them about, and Clark Kent was getting angry, and the other Superman had actually been drinking previously.
Yes, that's right.
And it was the scene where he was like, I mean, it was always that question, what would happen if Superman went on a bender?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and he was drinking Johnny Red, I think
that's
it
right.
was.
Yeah.
He had a bottle of Johnny Red.
He did.
And he had some peanuts, and he was just like pinging them into the bottles and smashing them all. Then he went
heat
out
vision on the mirror.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
right.
It wasn't a mirror. It was a plastic
you-
mirror, so rather than reflecting it, melted it.
all. And then he ended up showing up at the junkyard and going, and then Clark Kent came out of him, and they had this crazy fight.
And then, well, no spoilers. We'll let people watch
Oh
that.
yeah, spoiler alert.
But the Tim Burton Batman movies, obviously starring Michael Keaton, and there was actually talk of those two kind of not genre, but those two I don't know, timelines, for want of a better word, kind of merging in a sense. I think.
Was that for me? Oh, thank you so much. Was that for James? Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I'm cool. I'm joking.
We don't want to promote
cheers, man.
alcohol on the show. That is tradition that we have one cup of beer. Oh, even better. Even better.
Dude, the Tim Burton movies
we did talk about. I enjoyed the you didn't enjoy them, no?
They were crap. They were nothing like the comic books.
I enjoyed them.
Really?
But there was a talk of those two timelines.
You enjoyed them because that's all there was.
Well, do you know
If
what?
you
I
know what I
remember
mean.
going to see Batman, and it was 1989 when when the Batman movie came out. I remember wearing my Batman T-shirt, going to the Metro Centre to watch it. But they're actually going to converge those timelines together and have Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton together with Batman and Superman. How cool would that have been?
It would have still have sucked because it would have been the only thing at the time, but it would have been cool.
It would have been, oh mate, that would have
If
been.
Tim Burton got hold of it, it would have sucked. But you know, like sometimes things are just there, and you just put up with it, and you think it's there. I'll just. It might as well just be okay. That's what I think about the Tim Burton Batman movies. I'm like,
yeah, you didn't enjoy them.
kind of sucks.
It's interesting. Well, let's come back to modern day, because that's a whole conversation. Now, if you look back at the first X-Men movie, as I said, 1999, as a beginning, arguably the beginning of the modern day, superhero age. If we look at it now, there's been close to 50 films released since the first X-Men movie, and that's not including the Netflix, the Marvel Netflix, Iron Fist, Daredevil,
Punisher's came
Luke
out today as
Cage. Getting back to one of my students, Johnny, he messaged me today to tell me the Punisher movie had come out. I haven't had a chance to get back to it because I'm just non-stop today. I'm straight into the studio.
I've got Netflix on my computer.
But we're gonna watch Punisher tonight. Holy shit! Yeah, we're gonna. Sorry, that was my first swear word on PEEP.
That's okay.
But getting back to what we're talking about, the films have grossed, from what I can tell, close to or over $15 billion in revenue. which I think defines not just how popular, but obviously clearly how lucrative these films actually are. So why is the superhero genre of movies so popular? Without just, this is going to be a brush over and my feelings towards it. That the reason for that is that this speak to very powerful kind of hero archetypes that we all have within us, particularly for males and also obviously for girls as well.
Yeah.
And speak of what I would say, what we call character ideals. Mm-hmm. So these stories are so deep and so deep within us as human beings that when we see it expressed in such a dramatic fashion and such a powerful fashion on screen, we're just naturally drawn to them. You know, if you look at stories that hold that great power, that kind of great power, you're looking at biblical stories, and they're following that kind of set point. I spoke before about the Man of Steel film where Zack Snyder had Superman as he goes up to the sun to revive his powers. It's almost like Jesus Christ being crucified, and he's kind of representing that, you know, that ultimate hero to come down and save humanity, and that just appeals to us. You know, it's what we want to aspire to, and that's why we sit there and we watch these films and we're gripping the seats. You know, the hero who rises, who's taken from us and then rises again. To defend humanity, defend ourselves, looking for that part within us that really wants to face those, you know, metaphorical dragons and slay them, but perhaps we feel we don't have it within us, so we want to kind of project it onto. I'm kind of feel it vibe changing, like projecting it on, but not project it, but that's what we want, and that's what we can achieve and find within ourselves. And that's what interests me, that it's just these solid kind of I don't want to say needs, but these solid kind of I suppose, let's say solid but inherent I suppose requirements within us to be men and to be human, you know, to be and women and to be human, to move to that next step, to be able to take that step and become a hero.
Yeah, well, I think like I remember actually saying,
excuse me,
I had like a conversation with my young nephew, and he loves superheroes. I love superheroes. I'm a bit of a superhero geek, and I said, you know, who's your favorite superhero? And he had like, again, like all these action dolls. He had like Superman, Batman, and he couldn't really choose which one, but I'm sure you'd like to have had like a piece of them all. And I said, what superpowers do you have? And he said, I don't really have any. And I'd said, well, your superhero power can be to look after people, to take care of people round about you. And I think he went back and told someone at his nursery this is what he was going to do, and so they put him in charge of looking after the plants.
Wow!
So he became the superhero of looking after the plants. Yeah. And so there is something within that.
There is.
It might sound a little bit cheesy, but you can instill superpowers within children at a young age as a foundation for the future. And I think, like, again, as men, like watching superheroes, who wouldn't want to be able to fly? Who wouldn't want to be able to turn into the Hulk and jump like a mile into the sky and rip a skyscraper in half? That's not realistic. But what the realistic part of it is when they lose their powers and you can see that they're human. And then there's the redemption again.
The redemption aspect. That's the one.
With every great story in everyone's life, there's a redemption. So you should always try and be the hero of your own story to a certain extent, shouldn't you?
But don't you think that, you know, and again, we don't need to go too, I don't think we need to go too many layers down on this, but don't you think it's almost as if now it's like the modern day is trying to take that from us, take it, you know, from men and from women. I've got 2 daughters, so obviously I'm very much, you know, and I have a son, but that we're trying to take away that inherent, I don't want to say masculine part, but that inherent, let's say heroic part of what being a man is, that, you know, being a male is that to, you know, and a female, to walk that path, to take those steps forward, to work, to fail, but to succeed in the long term and to find that redemption, rather than now trying to say no competition, no compete, everybody's the same, you know, you're all good enough as you are, don't try and achieve to something great. But we need that within us to have that path to walk. That's going to be challenging, that's going to be difficult, that's going to cause a certain amount of I don't want to go back to saying suffering, but a certain amount of questionability of our own characters and not so much reason for being here, but our own value, question our own values, but then we can overcome that and find redemption and you know, and our own internal superhero through that. And if you take that away from children, from boys and from girls at a young age,
where's that going to leave us?
Well, imagine a world where the Wimbledon final didn't keep score. Imagine a fight where people weren't actually fighting each other. Whether it was like a World Cup final and they weren't keeping score, they were all just playing with you. They're all just playing. That doesn't make any sense.
Like a utopian future that we don't need.
There has to be winners and losers so you can strive to succeed and keep thriving.
And and I would argue to find out what it is that you are a superhero of. Because you might try... Here's the thing. So you decide you want to... Are we using sport or should we use... Okay, play the guitar. Let's throw something else. So you go to play the guitar. No single person ever goes to play the guitar is inherently going to be great at it. Okay, so you have to learn and practice, etc. So you learn and practice you put a year of your time and energy into it, and you're not getting any better. Now, I don't think what we should turn around and say to somebody is that, oh, that sounds great, you're wonderful, just do another 2 years. So you do 2 years, whatever. Yeah. So you've done 10 years on your guitar. You've not no better than what you started. Well, how about we do this, right? We either say, assuming you're putting the time and energy in, either put more time and energy in, sacrifice other things so you can get better at that. Or here's the thing, maybe it's not your thing. Sure. Your greatness lies in another area. Yeah. So rather than having, say, 20 children running a race and giving everybody a winner's medal, for those who haven't done as well as others, I'm not saying by any means in any way whatsoever you're no good. Absolutely the opposite. That was great. Let's train and get harder, and then you improve. Or perhaps their area of expertise is something else. And it's okay for an individual to have areas of expertise in other areas than all the same, right?
Of course, yeah. I did. Yeah, you're absolutely bang on with that. I actually did a lecture the other day there at the local college for a bunch of nursing students. I think there was 25 of them. And the thing I kept saying throughout it, so hopefully it would stick, it was like a kind of inception thing, but the common theme throughout it was, you may not get any thanks, you might not ever get any cards, you might not ever get any chocolates, it might be a completely thankless career for you, but ultimately if you go in with the idea that you're going to try and leave every single person better than the way you found them, you're going to win. Every single day you're going to win if you go in with that attitude and reflect on that's what you've been trying to do. And you won't need any thanks. You won't need any chocolates. You won't need people praising you because you're doing that one thing every single day and realising it, you know?
And if everybody could do that, if everybody could strive to be greater versions of themselves, then the world would be a better place, you know? Imagine that.
Has anyone seen the film just on the superhero thing? The film played by Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
What's that called?
Yeah, it's called. It's not Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Yes, that's right.
Have you watched that?
That kind of highlights, Cliff. Actually, thank you for that, because that's very profound. Because that highlights, in a sense, of what we're talking about. That's almost in reverse.
Die Hard.
That's that's kind of reverse engineering what we've been discussing, in the sense of this gentleman's lived, you know, I'd say he's 35 in the film. I'm not sure what it's meant to be. So he's lived 35 years of his life. I think he has a car accident. He recognizes he has these kind of superpowers. So well, I'm thinking when he's a kid and he's in a car crash.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he's in a car crash. Let's say he's 19 years of age. So, well, it's an old movie. It's been out for over 10 years, so we can talk spoilers. So, hypothetically, he's 19 in the car accident. Let's say he's 35 in the film. So what's that? 16 years.
Still with the same girl.
Where he's realised that he has these powers, but yet he's chose not to use them. He's chose to hide them, and he spends his life kind of always realising that he could be something greater than what he is, knowing that he has the ability to do that, but never taking that step.
Yeah.
And that's tragic.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yep. And then the opposite to that in the film is Mr. Glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Played by
Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, what that's representing is that part of humanity that's within us, that realizes that we can't be anything great in a physical sense. So because we can't be something great within a physical sense, we want to then take that anger out on other people and, you know, hurt other people.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a name for that. I mean, there's obviously names for that, but so because you can't become something that you are, rather than accepting that and looking at another area of competence that you could become great at, you then decide to, you know, achieve something through the destruction of other people.
Psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think like from Bruce Willis, I can't believe we're talking about this right now. I think from what are you going to say? Go on.
I heard a funny thing that the other day a lady was talking to a friend.
Yeah.
I was talking about Bruce Willis.
Yeah, man.
I just walked past and the conversation was gone, and she was like,
Yippee-ki-yay.
There's another Die Hard film coming out. I'm not too sure, but she was like, Die Hard 1, Die Hard 2, Die Hard 3. I mean, when's he gonna die?
He can't. It's so hard for him to die. That's the whole thing. But no, it does make sense. Yeah, I know they should have probably stopped at the first two. Amazing.
I like the first. Well, you could argue the first one is it's a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It's the greatest Christmas movie ever. Greatest Christmas story ever told.
I think that and Nightmare Before Christmas. Let me just continue with this.
Can I make one more?
Yeah, please do.
So my point was going to be maybe from Bruce Willis's Unbreakable movie point of view, his character point of view was he feared being great, which a lot of people do.
He
right?
Subjugated his own greatness.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of people out there with amazing skills, abilities, but the thing that paralyzes them is their own fear. They don't want to do things. They don't want to get up off the sofa. They don't want to put themselves forward to do podcast or boxing or martial arts or ice
Which
hockey.
you're going to fail.
You know?
At some point, you're going to fail. The failure side is a natural part of progression.
Absolutely.
You're not going to. Well, let's not sit here. Let's say you're not going to get everything right.
Yeah, you're not going to get everything right, but you're not going to know unless you try. So you don't really know what your, in inverted commas, superpowers might be. And why not try a bunch of different things if you really want to go and do them? Get up off the sofa and go get it done. The worst thing that's going to happen is, well, you're maybe not all that good at it. And if you keep practicing something, there's lots of different sayings, and I'm just going to paraphrase them right now, all in one. But if you do something continually, you probably are going to get good at it, aren't you?
Well, you're certainly going to improve.
If you just persevere with it, you probably will get good at it. You might not become amazing.
You absolutely will. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of my little
No, repetition, 10,000 hours. Here's my take on that. And I just want to talk a little bit more on this, which is all part of what we're doing, is that I personally believe that, you can get better at anything with practice, but to be truly great perhaps takes some kind of, I'm not going to get onto epigenetics now, which you probably know a little bit about.
Sure.
I haven't read enough on it. But, I think from a genetic standpoint, here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. What I was going to say is a genetic standpoint is that you're inherently born with certain attributes, not skills, because skills are learned, subset, certain attributes that with practice you can develop them, become great at it. But to become really good, the best in the world, you have to have something there already. That's the argument that I would make. However, even if you've got all those things in place, without practice, you're never going to be that good. You're just going to be mediocre. But here's the thing. It's like, say, in basketball, the studies have found that you don't need to be 7 foot, but you need to be just tall enough. With practice, you become great. So say in basketball, here's the thing.
Yeah,
you don't need to be 7 foot. But if you're 5'1", you're never going to be great no matter you practice.
Sure.
As long as you're at least 5'9", and then you practice, then you could become great. As an example,
yeah.
So you need a certain baseline of genetic kind of turnout to then practice on to become the best. Because I think, like, I like to sing. You've heard me sing.
You're a beautiful singer.
I'm a beautiful singer. I'm a beautiful singer. I'm like, have you seen the movie Step Brothers? Have you never seen the movie?
Like the mixture between Fergie and Jesus.
You can't look at me right now.
You're the songbird of our generation.
You can't look at me right now. You saw a unicorn, right?
Yes.
When I was singing. But no matter how, I think even with intense practice, I'm never going to be I don't know. John Mayer, Well, I think with John Mayer, again, I don't know if he's worked hard, but like say a top opera singer, to have that kind of level of, operatic skill requires more than practice. No?
Yeah, people just have natural abilities to do things, don't they, sometimes?
But they have to practice those natural abilities.
Yeah, of course. You have to try and finely tune all that, pun intended, with a singer.
With the singer, should we shout out Jamie Francis?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, do that, man. He's a great singer, right? He's an opera singer.
Yeah, Jamie Francis Campbell, one of our close friends. He is I think he's going to be in an opera right now, or he's in an opera right now in London. You can check him out, anybody. But yeah, he's a fantastic singer.
Yeah, and he practices. Obviously, he has an ability, but he's drilled it.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I want to say a few more things. Talking about the superheroes genre, I need to pull up Man of Steel. I need to pull up Batman versus Superman. We're not talking film specifically.
Was Man of Steel the one
The one that we both said was terrible because
yeah,
they bastardized, in my opinion, the character of Superman. Henry Cavill is a tremendously cast Superman.
Too angry.
But they've completely bastardized the character of Superman because in no form of Superman that's ever existed in any, and I'm sorry, he is a comic book character, has ever in any way been depicted other than very briefly in a Superman 3 when he turns bad, as a not a character archetype, sorry, but like as a storyline path, let's say.
Yeah, when he has to drink to find himself.
As a story beat.
Yeah.
Has ever been a petulant teenager who's dark and brooding and angry with the world. Superman is about light, about truth, about justice, about doing what's right, inherent of the consequences, and always. Whereas Batman's, he's kind of like parallel in a sense where he will, he's dark and brooding and what should we say? And do anything he needs to do other than, and that's a whole, I'm not going to get into that apart from kill, which obviously didn't happen in the movies. Yeah. So and the beauty of having those two characters together is that they play off one another. However, for this generation Superman, that is not Superman. Now, I'm not being an old man who says, but the Christopher Reeve Superman is essentially what Superman is all about. Yeah. And I'll tell you a true story. One of my Alpha Junior students had said to me, or rather said to his mum, who then told me, he said, my mum asked, who's your favourite superhero? She said, Spider-Man. And she says, oh, do you not like Superman? He goes, no, because you can't trust him. Can you believe a child said that?
Can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
It's true.
That's terrible.
That's absolutely terrible. That's it's worse than terrible.
Why can't you trust him?
Exactly.
Was it because he disappears every so often, doesn't he?
I think, in his current adaptations of Superman,
he's unreliable.
Because he hit the drink in Superman 3.
No, listen. The way they've created the character on Man of Steel and on Batman versus Superman.
We all have our flaws and we can come back from them.
Is not the Superman that, any generation Superman. And if this generation's all about being angsty and kind of like, not angsty, but, about negativity and the world's a terrible place and we can't do anything to fix it and we should all, mistrust each other, then what's going on?
Yeah, man.
That's not Superman, man.
Are bad.
But we're going to raise it back up again because we love Henry Cavill. He's a great dude.
He's beautiful.
But Warner Brothers and DC, let me give you a quick tip, right? And then we're going to ask you your favorite superhero movies. We're going to do a quick review, overview of what we've talked about, and we're going to wrap up because we're clocking on nearly 3 hours. It's the longest piece ever. Yeah.
That's amazing.
We're going to pull the rugs pretty soon. But here's the thing.
We're clocking on 3 days.
Here's the thing. Warner Brothers, let me give you a tip. Here's the thing. Marvel Studios has something like 30, I don't know, is it 30 films that they've released? 35 films. And you're playing catch up to Marvel Studios from a financial point of view and from a quantifiable film point of view. You cannot catch up with Marvel Studios. Unless you release 30 films, produce and film and produce and greenlight 30 films to be filmed all at the same time and release them all at the same time, you can't catch up. Just make good movies one at a time, release them, and then guess what? People will come and see all your movies. Fast tracking it through Batman versus Superman and shoehorning everything into there to fast track the Justice League is not going to work. I will say, though, that Wonder Woman is one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen.
I've only seen bits and bobs of it. I need to check it out.
It's a good movie. But Warner Brothers, get it right. Right, we're going to wrap up with these questions. I'm going to ask Cliff, I'm going to ask the viewers, and you've got a few minutes to reply because we're clocking on now for a 3 hour peep show. What is your... No one's... We're not turning the camera off until we answer this question. And I've got pages more.
No one's leaving until we release the bear.
Leaving. What's your favourite superhero movie, Mr. Chris Reid?
It's got to be the first of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Good choice. Batman Begins?
Batman Begins, yeah. Nice. Genius. Best ever. You'll never beat that.
Just before we do that question, Mr. Cliff Sainsbury, what's your favourite superhero movie?
Batman's not a superhero. It's a vigilante movie. Sorry.
But superhero isn't inherent within the superpowers. It's just it's a reference.
Take your time. Die Hard.
One you enjoyed. Just throw one out. It could be anyone.
I really enjoyed Superman 3.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll enjoy
where you get
Superman
drunk?
3.
Is that when he hit the
Yeah.
That was the one where he had the drink.
With Richard Pryor in it.
Yeah.
Genius. That's a good.
the one, yeah.
I enjoyed that. Mine, I'm going to go throw down for now, and this could change, Superman 2.
Really?
Superman 1.
Oh, Superman. Sorry, I thought you
Yes.
said Spider-Man there.
No,
Really
Superman
fell
1.
off
I'm
my
going to go
seat.
Superman 1 for tonight. Question, and then we're going to wrap things up.
Can I just
You can say whatever you want.
as well about superhero-
There's Warner Brothers been in touch and they want me on board. I'll tell you what, I'll sort you
Is it
out.
Tyson
I'll
Fury
help
again?
you out. Don't worry about that.
Tyson Fury to play the next Superman.
Well, you played Batman.
We've got
you
our
played
Superman
Batman at the press
He
conference
did, but
when he
his ears
turned
were
up in his
bent
Lambo.
over. He needed to get the ears right. The ears weren't working for me.
Question from David Wheel. He
Mr.
says-
David Wield.
He says he came here to see Ridley Scott.
Oh, he's
Did he?
He's disappointed.
flight's delayed. Need to check
still got-
Sky Scanner.
We've still got time for that. Listen,
Yeah.
viewers, it's been
Sorry, Dave.
we've covered. Thank you, David, for writing in there.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot. We've covered a lot of topics. We've had a fantastic guest in tonight. We've clocked on for 2.5 hours because
Brilliant guy.
it's been a fantastic guest. We've covered so many topics. It's been a very thoughtful show. It's been a very fulfilling show. It's been a very, in a sense, groundbreaking show. We're very honoured to have you drive all the way down from Ayr
Thank you.
to come on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So we're very grateful for you. I want to say thank you to Mr. Sainsbury here for setting up such a fantastic studio.
Yes, amazing.
We're biz, and thank you for hooking me up here. I do appreciate that as well. So with a little radiator.
It's great.
I would like to thank you for tuning in. The next show will be coming towards you imminently, a couple of weeks' time. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Team Alpha, follow PEEP Magazine, and to follow Mr. Chris_Hollywood.
Yeah, Chris_Hollywood_. But check out my podcasts. I've got a really cool bunch of podcasts right now.
Yeah, please promote that. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, so if you just go to www.thechrisreedshow.com, you can check out my podcasts. There's 4 right now. They're on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and iTunes. And my podcasts were top of the arts section last week on iTunes, which is balling out of control. It's pretty awesome. So podcast is going really, really well. So get on that on the website. If you scroll down, you've got access to all of the podcasts, and a clothing line's coming soon. I'm going to be producing some leisure wear.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Viewers, next guest, we are going to have on Mickey Terrell, the world bare knuckle boxing champion. So it'll be a pleasure to have Mickey on. Maybe perhaps we can get Baz Jones as well on.
Cool.
Shout out to Baz Jones, his boxing coach and my coach. I've not seen him for a little while because he's been busy fighting himself. Shout out to the manager. Remember to subscribe. Remember to get in touch. And Rose Bryan, if you're there, remember to send me a message on Twitter. PEEP Magazine, thank you for your time. That's a wrap.